read the policies.
Yeah, I didn't.
That's for that $1,000.
Right. I probably, I wouldn't say it's dying.
You said we didn't have.
Yeah. Well,
Just for the discussion, you figure it's relevant to these waters.
or something. Yeah. I think they've had poultry or something.
You probably got mine. You may.
One of the.
Well, that's fine. Oh.
Oh, really? No. Yeah, exactly. We're not rich, but not highly.
It's, we have a game, it's not my game.
Yeah, I don't know about.
What's that?
I don't like money for us.
No, I was pretty much there. So, $100, not here.
Yeah. They're early, like. Yeah. Yeah.
No, there's, no, there's 40 cents. Until you get a. And we tried to buy a new
Sure,
car.
that car, that's like, you don't get you can.
Kia Soul for your Mustang.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, so that was hard.
You want? Barbecue, then and I want to buy it. Where there were. I know it's easy. It's easy to come in.
Like, you want to 9. It's 100 grand. Yeah, 100 grand.
They're not that
The state farm.
Yeah.
Hopefully get.
New version of it, so we can do something.
No, vehicles are tough, so they can, you know, they gotta be registered and all that. Those are tough. Tough.
Changing band.
From states.
Yeah.
Important.
That's why there's a lot of ones in the Microsoft.
There's a lot of, like, a lot of. So that was very, he's very, not in this. So like, the last one, big ones.
Microsoft was never driving job lots in the past.
Almost like 30 million pounds. On the last run. So I'm going back to the United States and I was telling you 3 times what it is.
They need.
Yeah, it's
That's what Michael was.
Oh, there's a bunch.
That's what Michael was.
Should we talk about the top?
The one.
Yes.
He just wants like a.
That's, 3 kilometers.
Lower are higher than the tops, the high beams are 2 centimeters higher. Or, yeah.
Boys are, I don't know if they're. You may be the great general. They know this.
Just like the 90 years in black. Yeah, they didn't hear me. I don't think they're just bringing all the papers out. It's community center. The stretch they did, yeah. Fantastic. But I'm just listening to her and. Research from the Jabusha's and medical card. And it was, I just loved it so much. I'm gonna fly this and it's gonna be here and like stacked up and then. We had to put the vacuum in the plane and the plane wasn't coming back. Okay, man, your truck's gonna be.
Word, it should be streaming down.
Yeah, we were recording on it.
I see what it means. At least you have one. So we can't really run around. Well, that's right.
There's so much evidence. And you're really making a motion to agenda.
True, man.
No,
Is it eyes hard? Your nose up?
Yes.
those ones.
No, do that.
We go and find the next game. So, well, I guess we want. What's in the. That's on the airport. I'll make it will raise the quality.
And Leslie, no, I spoke to Leslie first, and then
100% count.
that's here.
So 10% you have to do it.
Because it was originally, then we pulled it off, and then, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's more than just time. They're arguing, it's like, oh, there's my life. It's like, that's not-
Yeah, they were, yeah, and there's that. Matthew, like, yes, yes, yes.
They're,
Probably no change. It is really important. Sweater. It was like this morning, I was sitting out, like, fine. Sidewalk, just humid, hot, inside, and they. I told her, I wanted to die, what's going on? Seriously, conversation I had. What happened?
It's hard to see it's written down, it's going on, it's going on, and all that.
Because they were small, like I said, like. It's like, yes.
Oh, were you all?
That's okay. Just saying, some people holder.
But. You. Go for two. Yeah, the big round. Oh, yes.
Okay, welcome everyone to June 12th to be the whole meeting, the Sunbury-York Central Community. Interim clerk Morrell, on roll call.
Mayor Hayward.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Devon.
Present.
Councilor Noble. President. Councilor Allen.
Here.
Councilor Shepherd.
Present.
Councilor Standish.
Present.
Councilor Harrod. Present.
Thank you, Member Brown. Call for a motion to approve the agenda.
Here, I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda to add under new business, purchase policy for review of Clinton.
Which policy?
Purchase policy,
As circulated.
I'll circulate it.
We have a seconder? I'll second it. Sure. No further additions? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Ask this time if there's any conflict of interest to declare. Is there any conflict of interest to declare? No conflict of interest to declare. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Presentations to council. Fortunate to have Chief Jody Price here and team this evening. You have the floor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, council, staff, members of the public. My name is Jody Price. I'm the fire chief here in Ormonto. I've been the fire chief for I'm in my 40th year in Ormonto. Before that, I did a short stint with, I worked with the fire marshal's office. And I worked at base fire hall for a little bit, and I was a volunteer firefighter out in Hawaii. On my background, I've gone up through the ranks here in Ormonto. I started out on the floor as a firefighter, became a lieutenant, a captain. I was a deputy fire chief, and I've been the fire chief for the last 19 years. I have my team with me here today. I'll get them to introduce themselves. Deputy.
Your Worship, Richard Cummings, I'm Deputy Fire Chief, 35 and a half years for Ormonto, and I as well kind of come up through the ranks, skipped a couple of ranks for the most part. I've been in management for the last 27 years. Spent the 80s working on the ambulance out of the Chalmers. Started my emergency services as a volunteer firefighter, volunteer ambulance attendant in Plaster. A couple of years ago.
I'm Assistant Deputy Chief Jerry Coyne. I've been in Delaware Fire Department for roughly 25 years. I spent 23 years on the floor, 23 and a half years on the floor. I recently was promoted to management April of last year. I've got 1 year under my belt as a manager. It's a different perspective, new opportunity, fresh and change. I, like most, started as a volunteer department with the Delaware Fire Department in 2000. Spent a year there and worked my way up through to lieutenant.
Mac Como, captain of Station 2. Been with the department 13 years now, worked up through the ranks, so started as a firefighter 5 or 6 years in that rank, lieutenant for another 4 or 5 years, and then now I'm in the rank of captain. That's on the volunteer side. For a day job, I work at Liberty Utilities. I've been there 15 and a half years. I'm an IT guy, so I write the code, keep systems going. And then I'm also a member of this community, right? So I live out in Cedar Hill Estates on Cannon Drive and respond to calls in our community and the other communities that form up this group.
So council, we've been going around to our partners and our basically our communities. We feel, and we've always felt this way with we are a regional fire service. We've always had been, we have been for decades, and you'll see in our history that it started back in the 30s. We're a regional fire service. We provide fire protection to a bunch of different areas in the region. Even though it says Ormonto on the doors of our fire trucks, we are your community fire service for part of your community, not the entire community, but part of your community. And we have 2 other contracts with 2 other fire departments. But for the part that we look after, we feel as if we are your community fire department. That's why we're here tonight. We wanted to vote, and we know that you've had some new people on council since we were here last. Some of you have seen us a few years ago. We just wanted to update you on where we're at. We've had a few changes, within our structure, and we want to update you on that, and then if there's any questions, whatever we can. We just, what I'd like to do with questions, council, your worship, council, is just at any time to stop us, and we'll just talk about it. And do it, or if you want to write it down and wait for the end, you're free to do that, but do it any time. We're gonna do an overview of the department itself. We're gonna really hone in on composite combination staffing in a career volunteer fire department. We are the only composite fire department in the region. We think that's our superpower is the Orinoco Fire Department. We've got both volunteer firefighters, we have both career firefighters. We think that gives us two very unique perspectives. We're gonna talk about our service area, our non-fire related services that we provide. Evidence that we do, facilities and equipment, our response package, personnel and our apparatus, our budgeting, and any questions that you might have. So who we are, there's 57 of us in our department. There's myself, you've seen some of the team here. One of the folks that isn't here tonight is one of our assistant deputies, Scott Rowe. We do have 2 assistant deputy chiefs. Jerry looks after all of our inspections and fire prevention, and he also looks after the volunteer force at Station 2. Scott, our other assistant deputy, he looks after our career force and our training. So they have two areas. We have a full-time administrative assistant. We're running 22 career firefighters with a minimum staffing of 4 at any given time. There's always 4 people, and then we run 30 volunteers. A composite fire department council is just that. We have both available, both staffing models available to us. You know, if you look at some fire departments in the region, our neighbors, Fredericton is a fully career fire department, no volunteers, and New Maryland is a volunteer fire department. They have a career fire chief, but they're still basically a volunteer fire department. Fredericton Junction is a fully volunteer fire department. We have the unique perspective to have both a career staff that can look at the, as you'll see as we go through the response types here and stuff. We have the career staff look after a bunch of different response types for us. They're very, they have in-house, they're at the fire station, they stay there 7/24, we have 4 shifts, and they respond very quickly. And then we augment that with our volunteer force. The only other constant models that are close for us would be like Miramichi, Riverview, St. Stephen, or Woodstock. So that's, you know, it's not there's about 15 composite fire departments in the province, and we're one of them. And our history, the fire department, back in 1918, we had our first major fire record in the town. 4 homes, several barns were burnt before the fire died out at the river. And most of this stuff happened down behind the mall. There were large sawmills down there, especially in the shipbuilding and stuff. So both of these fires happened down there. But in 1919, a fire ripped through the town. It destroyed 30 homes, a large store, 2 small stores. All 4 churches in the town were burned. Several barns and smaller buildings. And this fire is believed to start from the lumber mill. And there was no organized firefighting force in the town at that time. It was actually a village. And then you see there in 1931, that was when the volunteer force was started. And the volunteer force was started in 1931. And that stayed in place. And back in 1931, them and Fredericton basically looked after the Fredericton Fire Department at the time and the Orinoco Volunteer Fire Department that looked after our entire region. And they responded with what they could do. In 1959, as we all know, the federal government came to town and they built the base. What happened with that was that at that time, the town decided to basically replace its volunteer fire force with a fully paid fire department. And the town went fully paid in 1959, as did the base. And that lasted until 1999. And in 1999 was a large growing area and call volume, and basically the funds weren't there to hire more full-time people. We reverted to a composite fire department. That's when we brought volunteers in. So our volunteers are celebrating, Matt and his crew, actually in about 2 weeks' time, we're celebrating their 25th anniversary of the volunteers being reestablished after they were phased out in 1959. They came back in 1999, they've got 25 years. So we've got a long history. During that time, the Orinoco Fire Department responded to the region. met up with the village of Gagetown Fire Department, and they fought fires together. The Fredericton Fire Department, the Fredericton Junction Fire Department, so pretty much three organized fire departments back in that day. We have, fire serving our community. Basically, what we do is most of the things that most other fire departments do. We do a few other things that some fire departments don't do. We do fire suppression, post-mortem motor vehicle accidents. We do a lot of water and ice rescue. We have a lot of water that runs through town, so we focus a lot on water. We have boats, and we do ice rescue as well. We have 3 boats actually in the department. And as you know, and I know you are aware of all the flooding that we've had in Maple over the years, and that's a big thing for us to go over there and do the flooding, and we did a lot of experience on the water with that. We do have some materials response to an operations level, which is sort of a mid-level response for hazmat. If we have a large hazmat incident, we call on the provincial team on Fredericton. So a provincial team sitting in Fredericton, and we call on that team. We do medical assistance in town, and we also do medical assistance in your community and the other communities that we look after. When we're in your community, we can't pound a 20-ton fire truck out to Richard Orange and beat an ambulance out there and do a medical call like we can in town. In town, we can beat the ambulance sometimes we don't. But out your way, we can't. What happens is, if Ambulance of Brunswick tells us that they need a lift assist, they got somebody that they need help with, they have a cardiac arrest, they have something serious, they need access to a house, or they're gonna have a delayed ambulance, which has been a lot lately. We send one of our small SUVs with 2 firefighters in it very quickly to assess to get to that scene. And then we wait for the ambulance to get there, and then we basically help them, and they deal with that. So that's what we've done. When we get into the stats, you'll see how many of those usually here in your area. We do off-road rescue, which is mostly snowmobile accidents and ATV accidents. We've done some of that in their way. Some of the stuff that we do at a very high levels are fire prevention inspections and investigations. We have a full-time assistant deputy chief that looks after that. So anytime there's anything going on in the community and somebody needs some support from a fire prevention standpoint, we can help out. We've been out to some of your daycares. We have been to the rec center before. I know one time there before COVID, the rec center was doing a lot of stuff. We would go out, and remember they used to have all the booths set up there, and we'd set up with that. So anytime anybody needs anything like that, we can help them out. We do the inspections for your businesses, church, the restaurants, any daycare, any liquor license. We do those inspections on behalf of the province up in your area. And we also do fire investigations out in your community. We do EMO and disaster response for the town of Mormocto. The EMO is basically under the Mormocto Fire Department looks after EMO for the town of Mormocto. We have the budget for EMO. We look after all the training for EMO. We chair the meetings for EMO. We do the minutes for EMO. We look after the EOC. We keep it stocked. We keep it up and running. We test both, like we went in on a monthly basis and test the Bell and Rogers internet, make sure that they're both working in the EOC. We do all that kind of stuff until the point of activation. Once we activate, we then become one of the departments in town. We man our desk like any other department does in the town, and then our system comes in place. And then once that's over with, we do the debrief on it and look after all that, and that's been in place now for ever since our EMO started back when I started on the department 40 years ago. It's always been under the fire department. The other thing we do, council, is we support the REOP. So we basically, when the Regional Emergency Operations Center is set up from the province, they call on us to help them support, and that's how we get the Naval. We don't get the Naval because that's part of the town, because it's a local service district. The province basically comes in and asks us to go down and set up our command post and look after that section, and that's how we've done that for the last number of years. We support the REOP. We've also supported the REOP in things like when there was some flooding up the Nashwauk, we sent boats and crews to the Nashwauk to help them. And we also, a number of years ago, there was some flooding up in Keswick, and we sent some crews up to Keswick to help with that. So when the REOP needs support, they will call us and we'll help them like anybody else would. Our staffing, on our career side, we have our unionized firefighters. They're unionized with the IEFF, International Association of Firefighters. All of our firefighters on the career side are Gold Seal certified, and that's the same as what a mechanic is, a Red Seal certification. Firefighters use what they call Gold Seal, I guess they have a different color than mechanics, but the trades run Red Seal. They run like, plumbers, your electricians, and run Red Seal, but this is the same level, it's a very high level certification. Most firefighters that go to fire school, they'll spend the money and they'll go to fire school and do 26 weeks. We do this in-house with our people that haven't gone to fire school. A lot of our people have gone to fire school, but the ones that haven't, we do it in-house. It takes about 3 years for us to do in-house and get their Gold Seals for it. We have minimum staffing of 4 on duty, 724. We work a platoon system, and they work 2184 hours per year. And they're subject to recall, staff the station when our on-duty crew is called out of town. That's one of the things we do with our career folks. As soon as the truck leaves town to go somewhere, so one of our career staff leaves and goes to your community to handle an incident, we automatically do a call back, or maybe call 4 or 5 more firefighters to come back and staff the station in case we get a second call. On the volunteer side, they have an association. Oh, well, no, I'll finish this one in your next. Okay. Matt's going to do a few slides here from the association. There's the York Area Firefighters Association. About 80% of them are Gold Seal certified. We've got a bunch working on that right now. They have an on-call schedule through the summer, and they respond to about 250 of calls per year. When we get a little bit later in the presentation here, Council, you'll see that we do a little over 800 calls a year. Our volunteers do about 250 of those 800. That means that our career staff do over 500 calls by themselves. That one crew is sitting at the fire hall and look after a lot of our calls that they'll deal with, and I'll show you what they are here in a minute. The volunteers respond only to those calls that require more crews. We had a fire in Lincoln last night. We had a garage on fire beside a house. We had a call out, and we had 16 volunteers come out to it. There was eight full-time people there. There was like 24 of us there at that fire. Okay, Matt. Do you want to talk to me about
Maybe I'll just talk to the fact that, just add on to what Chief Price was saying. So our advantage of being a composite department, when you look at most volunteer departments and you compare it with the Ormuckton volunteers, there seems to be more a level of maybe professionalism, or there seems to be, or a drive to always be like the other station, if that makes sense. And I think that's an advantage that we have over maybe a lot of the other volunteers. Actually, is there anything else I want to talk about? So our volunteer firefighter association, we do like any of the firefighter associations, we try and get back into our community as much as possible. So we typically, if you follow us on the social media platforms, we try and find causes that we can raise and donate money to, and try and show support back for our community. So same thing, if there's a need in your community, then please bring that to us and we'll take it in consideration. So this is the commitment overall from the volunteer side. So we did 222 incidents, over 2,000 hours, 48 truck checks, 41 trainings, 12 communities, support the community. So these are where the community requested. So let's say that rec center event, if you guys said, well, we'd like you to come and support us at the rec center, that would be one of those support to the community events. Our other training, so we have 21 other trainings, so that would be non-scheduled weekly training. So when we say 41 training events, that's scheduled weekly training that we do. The 21 other training would be, and we'll talk about it a bit after, but that would be like our auto extrication with the Jaws of Life. It would be our swift water or ice rescue training. It'd be all that additional training that we do over the year. 25 level 1 events. So, and we'll talk about that. So requirement for New Brunswick is that every firefighter is a minimum of an NBCC level 1 credential to be a firefighter, to make an interior firefighter. And so we put 25 events of that. And yeah, pretty tremendous number of hours total, right? So over 8,000 hours total for work. Quickly talk about recruitment. So our recruitment, so currently, I know it says 2023 and that is accurate. We're in our 2024 recruitment year right now. So, we recruit in September, we'll run through a PT test. And then we like to see the curve through the whole year. So until it gets back to September, it starts. So currently still in the 2024 and it'll finish when we do the next recruitment drive in September, October. So, this year represents, so we get a recruitment, pushed out to our 25,000 population, use social media, different forms of recruitment. We managed to get 19 applicants, which is actually a pretty good number. We had 9 of them that started training, which is fantastic. So our process, we include a PT test, we do an interview phase, a background check, like there's some things we do, kind of onboard them into our system. 9 of them made it through that process. And then currently from that 2023 recruitment, we have 4 that are with us. So we put a big investment into people. We PT tested 19 people, we interviewed 19 people, we did this process to get 9, and then now we're at 4. Our current 2024 process, we're down to, actually, we had 26 applications. We kept, say 9 or 10, and now we're down to 6. So it's the way it goes. We do this big catchment, and then once people understand the commitment, we're gonna talk about commitment, but once they talk about what the requirement is to be a volunteer, to be committed, to not volunteer at another organization, like the only thing I do outside of supporting my family and my career is this, because I can't be a player. You know, I can't coach my daughter's team. Unfortunately, someone else is gonna do that for me, but I'm saying, hey, I support the community. I'm there in a car accident. I'm there if your structure fires. I can't do that. So these are actually my hours, my committed hours. So I did 99 hours at 68 incidents, 125 hours of truck checks, which represented 47 truck checks, 174 hours of training, 50 hours of community events, and I did 453 hours last year. So that was the 2024. The average is 8.7 hours a week. So if you had a part-time job and you work a little better than a day, that's what I do here. In my case, this represents basically an average volunteer. I kind of fall in the middle. I'm not super as active as I could be, and I'm not on the lower end. But what I also add to this, and it's not here. You have a question?
I do, so, you're a volunteer, right? And you said you live in Wassels.
Yes, I do.
So do you have to go to the station and get your equipment to respond, or do you have your equipment at home and go to the depending on where the location is, I'm guessing?
Great question. So, we basically do an evaluation. So for myself, I have 2 sets of gear. I have some gear at home, a small set of firefighting equipment. Like I don't have an air pack or anything, but I have an extinguisher, water extinguisher. I've got some basic things. So if it happens in our area, I'll go direct to scene. I have a radio. I can go report to the on-call chief. Hey chief, here's what I got. Do 360 of the house and it's a structure fire. Like I went to a structure fire down Sunbury-York a couple weeks ago, garage fire and a house. I was standing there putting water on the house with the garden hose, right? Maybe I saved the house, maybe I didn't, right? But the ability for someone to be there quick and make a difference. So that's what I'll do if it's close. If it's outside of our area, I go to the station, get my gear at the station, and then respond in one of the trucks. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so say you're in Rushmore, like Sunbury, right?
Yeah.
So does your gear end up, like your full,
I have a full set of gear at home.
okay, you do, okay.
Yeah, it's my own.
Yeah,
My own gear recycles to my home gear, and then that's what I use there.
yeah, because you need all those jackets and everything,
Yeah.
pants and boots.
No air pack, so I'm not able to go
Okay.
in, right? So I'm not putting myself at risk, but I do as much as I can to stabilize the situation. Or at least give a report back to the on-call chief.
No, it's good to know that, because I just, I have a thought in my mind.
Yeah, and it's comforting to people sometimes when you show up and you can just be there, that person to work with them, right?
So you have a green light on your car or?
No, green lights are not allowed in New Brunswick.
Oh, is that only in Ontario? I would say I'm in
Other
Ontario.
provinces allow, but you're not allowed green lights. No four-way flashers, no speeding, follow the speed limits. It's, you'll be a model citizen.
I'm sure.
So, yeah, but I guess what these stats don't represent is, on the captain side of it, so the management side, I probably do at least 50% of those hours again as part of my duties, so, which is why sometimes I'm not doing the extra events, the extra things, I'm really tired. It's things like tonight doesn't include in those hours, right? That's to explain that commitment. So this is training requirement, so, basic firefighter that comes to us, if they have no firefighting background, no certifications, no training, that's totally okay. We have a process, so we put them through what's called the firefighter 1 through, New Brunswick Community College. It's a sponsored program by the Office of Fire Marshal. And, this is the commitment that they would put in, to get that course. So it's 255 hours total. So that's plus their practical time. And additional skills that a person, will require. So in addition to that basic firefighter 1, which says they are a firefighter within New Brunswick, they will get some driver training. So for us, it's we call it a hot course, but it basically allows them to respond with lights and sirens. Vehicle extrication, so using the jaws of life. A pump course, they should know how to, operate pumps, large truck pumps, portable pumps, etc. Wildland, so your forestry type calls, so where DNR might be involved, where we're out in the woods, totally different set of equipment. Emergency medical responder, that's a big one, so we do that recertification every 2 years. Off-road rescue, the chief mentioned, so side by sides, we do a lot of rope, stoves, baskets, and remote type rescues. So that will be another 180 hours that the person would contribute. Richard, Jerry, anything to add to that, or you guys do? Okay, so our communities that we service of course, the town of Warren-Monk, which now includes Lincoln, yourselves, your community, or at least part of your community, I should say, all your community, I know you've got contracts with other fire departments. We look after, for the Capital Regional, Rural District, we look after Burton, Gary, Maple, Beckfield as well. We have a contract with Warren-Monk First Nation by fire protection areas. So that's the communities we know. That's why we say we've been a regional service for a number of decades. And, we pride ourselves on being a regional service, and we provide services not only to the town, but to the communities around the town. We're part of a mutual aid agreement, because you can't, even though we've got a fair amount of equipment and stuff, nobody can have enough equipment to handle anything. So our biggest mutual aid partner, we have what's called the Capital District Firefighter Association in Capital, and we have a Capital Area Mutual Aid Agreement between 21 fire departments. In our association, it runs from Stanley to Hoyt, to McAdam, to Mackwick, Millville, back around, so, and everybody in between. So we're all members of one mutual aid group. We mostly mutual aid with Fredericton Junction, Fredericton, Maryland, Hoyt, and Upper Kingston, all main people. We do a little bit with Upper Gagetown in the Virgin Way. It's the odd time with Gagetown, but mostly those fire departments right there, so we mutual aid with. And we also have a special agreement with the base Gagetown. We have a special mutual aid agreement between the town and the base on that, so we have a higher level mutual aid with them. They're also part of the capital area one, but we have a higher level mutual aid with them. So we mutual aid with each other there quite a bit. Normally what we do with the base is really not set up for rural firefighting. They're trucks, they're most of their areas in a hydrant district, so they're set up really good for a hydrant area. So normally what we do at the base is if we get a call, and let's say it's in your community, so we moved to Sunbury Road like we did a couple weeks ago. We send our stuff to the Sunbury Road and then we ask the base to cover us. So then if something happens in up the west, those hydrants out there, they're better equipped to fight a fire in the hydrant area than they are in the non-hydrant area. So now, that's not to say that you won't see a base fire truck land in Richard somewhere or Wansas or wherever, because you will. We've called them out, and they come out and help us, but for the most part, we have that agreement back and forth, and they do a lot of stuff, like when they go to Petersville or down in the area, we'll cover the base for them until they can get ready to fall there. So we cover each other back and forth. And then we have a disaster services mutual aid agreement with both the Village of Maryland and the City of Fredericton. We all three of us share resources as it relates to EMO, and we've tapped into that. We've tapped into that, especially in the floods. We brought staff down from the City of Fredericton to help us with the floods and stuff like that. And we share a lot of stuff back and forth when we've got something going on, like the ice storms or the storms or when we had our things like that. Fire inspections is something that we do in your area. We do in areas where you don't have a career fire department. The inspections are done by the provincial fire inspectors. In our area, our jurisdiction, we look after the fire inspections for the fire marshal. So we are local assistants to the fire marshal. We actually work for the fire marshal. We're all, both myself, Richard, and the two assistant deputies are all local assistants. And we can go out and do fire inspections for the fire marshal in our area. The big, we do the license offices, the daycares and liquor license are big ticket items. We also do the assemblies like the churches and the community centers. And we do a lot of complaint investigations. So I actually, just before I came here tonight, I had a little complaint investigation of neighbor versus neighbor on a lunchtime fire that I had to go deal with in Lincoln. So, Ward 4. So I went and dealt with that and put the lady's fire out for her. It was a burn day. She couldn't be burned. So anyway, little old lady, but she had a little campfire in the background. So that's the complaint stuff. And recently I was out to a neighbor versus neighbor fire thing out your way. And I had to go out there and deal with that. And that was an interesting one as well. Somebody trying to burn some stumps out, the neighbor didn't like it. Somebody might even heard about it. And then we do multifamily houses. So anywhere we have an apartment or multifamily, we look after that. We've got one or two of those, got a lot of them in town. We do this fire investigations. So we have a fire, like we did one on the Sunbury Road. We do the investigation into that, and we do the fire investigation. We scan that into the fire marshal's office, so he knows what's going on with that and what caused that fire. And that agency may be called to assist, such as the fire marshal's office, the RCMP, and public safety. The fire prevention, which we talked about, so, and that's one council I'd like to leave with you. If there's anything you've got going on that you know of that's going on in the community, I think we've got a lot of, like we've got handouts, we've got the helmets, we've got little bags. We do a fire prevention week open house every year at the fire hall, and we invite everybody to come in. But if you got something going on in the community, you know what's going on, reach out to us, we'll do our best to get somebody there. If we can, you know what I mean, like sometimes drop dead summer, it might be hard to get people, but for the most part, we can usually get somebody out there. EMO disaster services, like I said, we look after that for the town. So it's in our budget, and we also use we have the incident command post. We have our own incident command post that we have a spoiler that's set up for incident command. So we use that in the region as well. We loan that out. I guess the last time we had it in the region, we had it to the tire fire and it stayed over there for a few days and we let them use it and stuff. So, but we have that in our cadre of equipment. And then we use the unified command. We do that a lot at the airport. Is our biggest unified command area. That the airport's a little different now because it went to the city of Fredericton. But when we get there, we go, city of Fredericton goes, and the airport already has its own fire department there. And if it's behind the fence on the runway, the airport fire department's in charge, and three of us come together and we work a unified command structure. So we support the incident commander from the airport, both ourselves and Fredericton. And we all, you know, if we need something, if we need to move people, or we need to put people back, or we need to search somewhere, we work with them, and that's a unified command, and it works very well for us at the airport. And we do that a lot in the floods and stuff. Fire Smart is new to us. Fire Smart, as most of you know, I think it's starting to gain a little bit of traction here on the East Coast. It's been out there for 40 years. It's scientific. It's got a background. It's a fact that 90%, there's 90% less fires to homes that have practiced Fire Smart techniques than those that don't. Now, that being said, council, homes in Nova Scotia that were Fire Smart burnt to the ground. Okay, so it doesn't save every house. So it's not fire. If you have a large fire coming through on a very hot, windy day, even with your house Fire Smart, it may still burn down, unfortunately. There's nothing you can do. But anyway, we recognize this. What we did here is we hired a Fire Smart coordinator this year. I went to council last year and asked them if they would give me a summer student and another summer student. We had one of our current summer students. She's been with us for a couple of years, and actually it works out really well because she's going to fire school this September. So she's got a little, she's a volunteer firefighter in the village of Gagetown. So she's got a little bit of background on it, and she's taking that and she's running with it. And what we're doing is we've come to the realization that we, for the first year or two, we got to get our plan built. We got to get a, you know, I mean, it's going to be a little bit slow going. But what we're going to do is we're going to do 4 of the engagements with the community this summer. We're gonna go do 4 of them. We've got, and we're gonna do it 2 in Ward 4, which is our Lincoln Ward, and 2 in Ormuckta West, which are Ward 3. Those are our hazard areas for us. Those are our subdivisions that are in the urban interface. And we're gonna try to do those and get those out of the way and see how they go for us and do a little bit of education with people. What we're gonna focus on is that immediate zone. We're gonna focus on that zone up to about the 10 meters around people's houses and really focus hard with them on that. We would like to be like British Columbia and Alberta with their Fire Smart program. Last August, I was in Salmon Arm, giving a presentation to the fire services out there, the regional fire service, on leadership training. And I met their Fire Smart coordinator, and she has a staff of full-time, she's a full-time firefighter for the regional district of Salmon Arm. She has 4 full-time fire department people that work with her year-round, and she has a $2.6 million budget. So she's got, like, she rents dumpsters and sends them out to all the community places. People clean their yards up because and they had a big fire in Salmon Arm the year before. Actually, we were supposed to do the presentation in 2023, and they had fires so bad they had to cancel. So then we went out in 2024 and did the presentation. They do dumpsters. People bring all their waste in, throw all their debris in the dumpsters. They get rid of it. They have companies come in with chippers and chip everything. They're like quantum physics up there. They just know how to do it because they've been doing it for years. What we're finding is we're not at that level yet, so we're gonna basically, instead of trying to get everybody to get a wood chipper and chip a half an acre behind their house, what we're gonna do is focus on the house. We're gonna focus, okay, you got wood, bark, mulch in your flower bed. That's what my wife has in her flower bed. You say, that should be, and I should tell her that it should be brick chips, right? But I'm telling you, it's like trying to convince, like, you know what I mean, somebody to move from wood, bark. We're gonna focus on that little area there. We're gonna tell people that try to look at that mulch, try to change that. Don't put a cedar tree there. Put a Fire Smart friendly tree there that won't burn when the fire comes in. We're gonna ask people to clean up their gutters. As we get up there, there's a little bit of leaves in there. We know that what burns down people's houses, the Fire Smart, is not just mostly this great big wave of fire. It's this tiny little cinder that comes through the air, falls on your roof, rolls down, and sets the leaves on fire. Your eaves drop, sets your leaves on fire, continue at it, and burn your. And seeing that, you see the ring, you see the fires from Slave Lake and stuff. You see the ring camera footage of the firefighters putting out fire in the shrub brush to start saving somebody's house because the cinder dropped in there. That's what we're gonna focus on this year, because we don't think we can focus on much more in our areas. And then hopefully at some point, get to a point where we are getting people to trim up the trees behind their house. If we can convince somebody to trim up the trees and so that the fire doesn't climb up the tree and get up into the crown, and we can convince somebody this year to do that, we're gonna do that. But I'm telling you right now, I think the focus is to get them to get the bulk mulch out of their flower bin, get brick chips in there, get rid of the cedar trees. And hey, on your deck, you got lawn chairs on there? The lawn chairs catch fire and catch your deck on fire. You shouldn't have these flammable, you know, or if you do, you should put them away so that the sparks don't get in there.
Just a comment that I've cut back the trees, no problem. But I'm scared to go up to the second level of the house and clear the gutter, so I can only get the first level done.
Yeah, so that's exactly, there's a problem right there, on how we gonna get that done. That's where fire smart, when you're out doing the community outreach stuff, right? That's where maybe a community group can come in and help somebody that they're like, oh, we got a truck with a bunch of ladders on it, and that's what we do, right? We clean people's gutters, help them out. That's where they're at in BC and Alberta, they're doing that, right? They've got skid steers off with mulch. And they go in and do it, right? So they've got equipment and things like that. We're not there yet, but we're coming.
My case, I'm scared of heights.
Yeah. So that's where we're at with Fire Smart. I know you folks are working on some Fire Smart stuff, so we'll help you out with whatever we can. We've got somebody hired. We've got a summer student, we'll loan her out to you, whatever you want. We'll share back and forth. She's been out with Gary, with them, helping them. She actually works, we've told the province has got 2 summer students working in Fredericton. And we said, we would like you to take our summer student when you go to do MacBack and stuff, to go with her to do the provincial part. Because we'd like her to get the experience of what that would, working with them. So we're willing to help you out wherever we can on that, so.
And for they actually going from house to house in the summer to talk to people, or is it like by request?
Yeah, so that's, what we're working on is a community, what Fire Smart tells you, the best thing is to have a community event. Something that, we can bring everybody in and do like, a bunch of, pass off a bunch of information and things like that. If you have an existing community event and you can go to that and tap into it, that's great. But if you don't have an existing community event, go and you set up your own community event, try to do that. And the other thing is that look at high hazard areas like a subdivision that is a really big trouble, and maybe you door to door hand out pamphlets or something like that. So everybody, Fredericton has tried. Fredericton did Odell Park. They did a session Odell Park. Unfortunately, they didn't do very well with it. They did have some rain. But they didn't, and they felt that after they looked at it, they thought it might not have been in the best part of the city to do it. Because it's more downtown and people down there that they don't have the urban interface. Gary did it, they got about 20 people up to it, but they did it in the middle of the week. So you gotta do it when people are available, like in the evening and stuff. They did it during the day. So anyway, the different, actually Maryland's doing theirs tonight. So we sat down with our fire department coordinator to Maryland to steal ideas from them. I said, Helen, get up there and it's dead, come on back home. Get up there and it's really cool. Stay there and video and take as many pictures as you can and steal ideas. And that's what we're doing. So she's up there right now. EMO support the community. So we go and for the flooding, from power outages. Arthur was a big one. Our ice storms, wildfire, we have them, which is growing in, unfortunately, it's not, if we have a wildfires when we have one, and that's unfortunate. Then we have an interesting thing running through our jurisdiction and running through your community is we have that natural gas pipeline, which is, we've done training with Maritimes and Northeast and Liberty on that. And we're part of the response on that. So if anything were to happen, the transfer, the 2 biggest hazards we have in our jurisdiction on that is the transfer site or the valve site that you guys have on the Whitaker. And then we have a large site in Lincoln, which where they put the mercaptan in and they deodorant and they take off for Fredericton and warm up them. Yeah, the gas comes out of that pipe that's odorless, and they had the mercaptan to it, which gives it that smell. That gets done there, and there's a lot of moving parts there that can go wrong. So usually with that, unless somebody can start digging on the pipe and scratches it, it causes problems. Usually it's one of the valves that causes the problem, not the pipe itself. Usually it's human intervention that causes the pipe to cause problems. Other than that, most of the problems are at the valve sites. And you guys got one on the River Road, we have one on Lincoln. So we've got one in the town of Warmucka and one in, Sunbury-York six.
And then also got the urban.
And you got the urban, yeah. Yeah. Which is, a really interesting, facility. We've done work with them there, and actually it's a pretty neat facility. They've got a lot of stop gaps in there. But, good point, Richard, that's our other weak point right there. Get down into the budget, so sorry, that's a little hard, or sorry, our incidents, sorry, not the. That's our incidents. You can see, council, that we did have about 810 incidents, and these ones up here these are our fire incidents. These are our fire responses here, and, these are the incidents these are our alarms, either faults or an activated alarm. These would be like ADT alarm, the alarm going off at the church, the alarm going off, at one of the businesses. That would be that. We have our fire alarm, our fire situations here, and these are our motor vehicle accidents. AC medical assistance, falls in about 1/3 of our calls. And then everything else is the different types of like power lines, down power lines, the assistance to police, some mutual aid in there, and our rescues, our different rescues that aren't motor vehicles. So like our water rescues, our snowmobile accidents, our ATV accidents, things like that. If we look at calls by community, you see that, you folks are right here with 81 calls. See, the majority of our calls are in Warmucka, 2/3, and 1/3 are is in the regional response. You were right there at 81 calls.
10%.
And then if you look at your community with those 81 calls. So, that, 40, almost half of them are motor vehicles. And then if we look at the other thing, we've got medical assistance here. Down power lines and alarms, but then we got our fires in here. This is our little section of fires. And our little section of fires, is the things that, is a labor intensive part of, firefighting. When we get fires, that fire we had 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago this Friday out on the Sunboat, that's labor intensive. There's a lot of moving parts to, a structure fire. Things like that, as opposed to just an ADT alarm going off in house, counseling.
Is there any common place for the motor vehicle collisions, or is it just all over the community?
You've got some of the highway, so you're picking up some from the highway, from your little section of the highway, which we may see change in the, there's a change on the highway, right? It doesn't belong to you guys anymore. It belongs to the city of Fredericton. So that may change a little bit on our statistics for next year, but in this year, it was still your area. So there's a fair amount there out on the highway in your section of it. But there's also, we also get a lot of calls out in Wilsey, especially. We get a lot of calls from the Four Corners out to the city line.
Deer, a lot of deer commission.
Right, Orange Road too.
Yeah, it's funny, yeah. So. And this is your year to date. This is what you got. So we got 37 calls so far this year. Motor vehicle accidents still taking up a big section of it, right? And then you see down here, we've had 2 structure fires already this year. And then we've got, the medical assistance is in this blue section here, so it's growing. It's pretty much on that. What we see so far this year is pretty much on par to match up here, similar to what we had last. We run 2 stations, as Matt said. Station 1 is at Nermashi Road, which I think most of you are familiar with, over by the high school. That's our career station. So the career firefighters work out of there, they live out of there, and our administrative offices are there. So if you're ever looking at anything from an administrative standpoint, that's where we're located. Station 2 is at Doyle Drive. It's the one over there by Town Hall. You've probably seen that one, especially scooting up the highway or whatever, you see them out there. That's our volunteer station. So that's not staffed all the time. So usually there's not somebody there all the time, unless you're in there doing training or there's something going on. We run 7 major pieces of apparatus. We run 4 pumper tanker, engine type, things that go and pump water and put fires in. We have 1 tanker in our fleet, but a lot of our pumpers, all of our 3 of our pumpers will function as tankers if we need them. We buy our trucks, council, we buy 1 truck. They're very expensive, might add, and, it's a pumper, it's an engine. We also put our jaws of life on it, so we keep our jaws of life on our engines. So the paid crew, when they go on a call, they take an engine that has firefighting capabilities on it, they take their jaws of life with them. And when we build that truck to be a tanker later on in its life. So when it moves, when we got a new truck on order, it'll be coming in at the end of the year. When the new truck comes in, that truck comes to station 1, takes over as the frontline apparatus. That truck will then move to station 2 and become the engine over there. And it's one of its jobs over there is to be a tanker. We've already got, when we bought it 5 years ago, we bought it to be a tanker. So we move it over, we don't have to retrofit nothing, it can function as a tanker, it can function as a tanker tonight if we needed it to. And then we have a ladder tower, we have a ladder truck, we have one with a bucket on the end of it, it's a newer to us, we've had it for a couple of years now, we had a straight stick ladder truck, a few years ago, hour now, and we got a heavy rescue at station 2. We have 3 boats, we got a side-by-side and 6 support vehicles and our command boats. So this is some of the stuff I'd like to go over. I'd like to show you what we're spending here. I think this is as a taxpayer, folks in the gallery and this council, I think this is important. So, so when we send you the career firefighters by themselves, are things like, off the top here, residential fire alarm, a small grass fire, CO alarm, vehicle fire. If it's just a single vehicle, not threatening the structure, the career truck can handle that, no problem. Power lines down, oil spills, we send 1 pumper, 4 firefighters, and they go to handle this. If we get to the next level of response, which is what we call a food truck response, those are larger vehicle fires. Those are large grass fires. Grass fires threatening structures, any motor vehicle accident we go through, most motor vehicle accidents we go through, we send a response. What we send is we send the 4 career firefighters, and then we send an engine out of station 2. And it'll have anywhere from 4 to 6 firefighters on it, depending on staffing. And then we send a chief. We always have a chief on call. So we have 4 career firefighters that live in the fire station and they're on call. And of the 4 fire chiefs, 1 of us is on call 7/24. So I'm on call. Last night I was at home, asleep at 1:11 this morning. The pager went off for a structure fire in Lincoln. I get up and I responded with the career firefighters to be the incident commander on scene. So we send, when we send this out, we're sending 5 career firefighters and the volunteer truck on our food truck response. And then there's the one where we have our full first alarm for our large, more complex. These are our structure. This is where the rubber hits the road, the things that we need to get going on. A large vehicle, this is the structure fire, forest fire, or a hazmat incident. We would then send that, what we do on the career side is we send the crew that's working, and then as soon as we get a couple more people in, we send another truck out from the career station to get another truck rolling, because we need water now. It's really, a rural fire is very labor intensive. We gotta haul our own water, can't hook into a hydrant. So, and then on the volunteer side, we send the engine, the rescue, and the tanker, and our volunteers, and there we get 10 to 16 volunteers. Actually, last night it was funny, we had 16, station 2. And then we'll send 1 chief for command, and then one to 3 chiefs will respond. Depending on how many of us are around. Now, we've got one of our chiefs right now that's out in Manitoba on vacation, so he's not coming. So, there's 3 of us in town, and if I was in Halifax, then there'd only be 2 in town. But one thing I can guarantee you, there's always 1 of us in town. Somebody's got to stay in town 100% of the time, and we have to stay within the jurisdiction of town. I can't go to, I can't jump in my truck and I'm on call, which I'm on call this week. I can't jump in my truck and go to the north side, Fredericton, and go to the Walmart up there and grab something that's just too far away. Now, I can run up to the Walmart here on the south side because I got my vehicle and I can split away from there, but I can't go, I usually don't go north side, I move to north side. So we are limited by the area that and then we have mutual aid response here, so. Go ahead.
So sorry, the garage fire lots in Lincoln, that was all.
Yeah, full response. So what we did there, yeah, so exactly, so last night in Lincoln. So what we did was we had an engine out of station one, it actually had 5 firefighters on it, right? It was 5 in work until they took them out. And then 2 more firefighters come up with another truck, and then I went as the chief. So there was 8 of us on the career side. The volunteers responded with a pumper with 4, the rescue had, how many on it, Matt?
6 or 7.
6 or 7 of you. The tanker had, I think, 3, and then I don't know if the
Must have sent this one.
and the squad went, there's another vehicle, there's a small vehicle that went, there was 16 volunteers that went. We actually, initially on that call, we actually called Franklin from Mutual Aid out of Kimball Drive. We weren't really sure, they said it was close to the house, we weren't sure, and then when the first truck got on scene and he gave his assessment, started putting fire, and he basically we canceled the truck off and we didn't need it. The other nice thing about it is we were right across the airport, so we snuck in and stole water from one of their hydrants. And so, in Lincoln, if we were just up the road, we wouldn't have it, we would have one. So, the interesting thing is in town, we need less people. And in town, we need less people because we don't need to haul water, we can hook to a hydrant and bring it in. But in town, we have higher risk. So we have a hospital. In town, we have Sobeys Warehouse, which is a large commercial. In town, we have 48 unit apartment buildings. When a 48 unit apartment building is on fire, you need hydrants and you need a lot of people. So you don't do it with 14 people, you do it with everything we got plus mutual aid. But on a run of the mill house fire council, in town, we can do that with 14 people because we have water, but out of town, we actually bump our numbers up quite a bit as we bring tankers in and we haul. And that's where our neighbors help us on mutual aid council.
You know, a couple of years ago, there was funding for a second cistern, as far as Wassers.
Yes.
Do you ever put a second one in, or were you still trying to?
It was supposed to go to landfill, and that's sort of, that's really, it didn't work out well. Like, we had 5 tanks that went we had 5 7,000 gallon tanks that went into the landfill. And when we went there was a change in leadership and management, and it just didn't happen. So we backed off on that, and one of the things we were looking to do was to put another one in out there. We've got the one at the rec center.
Yeah.
And we're looking to put another one, either another one at the rec center, if that was possible, or maybe put one over to church. We'd like to put them, like we had one down in Burton at the Lions Center. We like to put them at things like rec centers and churches and rec centers, not on private property. Because if private property changes, you know, all the problems we could have with that, right? So that's what we've been trying to do. So we've never really established that. So if that's something you want us to work on, we have a tank. We have some tanks that we could use. We've got them in storage. We've bought them. They're all paid for. Got them sitting there. So we could very easily put another one into play. We need a little bit of money to, get the groundwork and stuff done, but we could work on that. But if you think it's something that we need you want us to look at as a priority, we can definitely look at that. This is our budget. So our budget for the Ormonde Fire Department is just a little over $6 million. In 2024, I believe, we looked it up. Our invoice to you folks for fire protection was $473. And that works out to about 7.8% of our budget. So you pay for about 7.8% of the department budget. That's where, just over on the costing. We have contracts, like I say, with the LSD, we have contracts with Ormonde First Nation, and then, on that as well. Councilor?
How is the amount we pay determined?
Well, there was 3 formulas. When you guys were in LSD, there's 3 formulas for the LSD. So there's a formula for fully volunteer. Back in the day, there was only 1 formula. So the village of Fredericton Junction, the village of New Maryland, town of Warmock, and the city of Fredericton, all. So when you went, so when Fredericton went up on the Royal Road and we're doing fire protection up there for that LSD, they basically said, okay, well, here's the formula. And Fredericton says, yeah, but we're doing it with career firefighters. They're sleeping in the fire stations. They're going really quick. Fredericton Junction's getting the same formula. And they're doing it with the volunteer fire service, which is a lot cheaper to run. So the province then set up three formulas. The three. The first formula was the volunteer one. The second formula is the composite one. And the fourth formula is the career one. We fall under the composite one. And the composite, you pay a portion, a percentage of our career staff. Okay, when you pay that, it's not, so you pay for our volunteers, a portion of our volunteer costs, and then you pay a portion of our career costs. And it's only on a certain amount of, I think on the composite one, and don't hold me to this because it's been a few years since I looked at it, but I think it's for, you guys pay on a portion of 4 career firefighter positions and a chief officer position. And on the volunteer side, you just pay on the and then you pay for a portion of the volunteer, all the volunteer component, you pay for a portion of that at your percentage. And that rate is determined by the province when they basically take our full, sorry, it was determined by the province when you were in LSD. They would look and they would say, okay, the town of Warmock, we're gonna cost share at this formula at, I think it was, Richard, they cost shared on when we were doing, when Sunbury-York South was an LSD, I think they cost shared on about 43% of our budget with all the LSDs that we were under. And with that 43%, basically, we didn't, it wasn't the full 6 million. This is one of the things, it was only a portion of the 6 million, so it was only about 1.5 million that you guys paid, the LSDs paid 43%. And a fire truck is a good example of that. We do cost sharing on fire. A fire truck for the Normal Fire Department is $1.3 million. We get cost sharing from the LSD of Burton they basically cost share with us on what it would cost to buy a rural fire truck in Hoyt, which is about $600,000. And then they cost share on that at 43%. So we buy a $1.3 million fire truck for the town. The Burton cost shares on that at 43% at $600,000. Because the province says, no, we don't think you need a $1.3 million fire truck. We think you only need a $600,000 fire truck. $600,000 fire truck doesn't work for us, for our needs. We can't put our jaws of life on it. We can't set it up as a tanker. We can't do all the other things that we do with it. So then the town basically pays for the rest of it. The other costs, and we understand that we're gonna do it because that's what it is. So.
Oh, I'm very well aware of.
Then you don't
Well,
have,
I used to work for the town of East Gwillimbury.
well, who?
In Ontario, the town of East Gwillimbury, and our fire station burnt to the ground caused by a 2013 Rosenbauer. And it was less than a year old, that truck. And we had a sister truck too, that we put away into storage that we couldn't use, that the fire station burnt to the ground. And within 18 months, we had a brand new fire station with all the equipment. And within less than a week, we had a temporary station going.
So was the cost sharing in Ontario the same as here, like it was?
No.
30%?
We were a composite fire department too. We had volunteer as well as career. And Chief Bill Dawson was the chief at the time when the fire happened. And it was quite a learning experience for me and for our community. Yes, it was a tragedy, but it also, I don't like to say blessing, but we got a brand new fire station with brand new equipment that our insurer, state of the art, that our insurer contributed almost 100%, but not quite, because the fire chief asked for improvements to the station. So I understand fully the expense and how fire stations work. And it's a very, unique
Yeah,
area.
well, to the question, your worship, as far as I understand, we're still working under the LSD formula, but I am not sure. That would be a better question for, our CAO, John Jackson. That's that comes up to corporate. I'll pass it off to corporate. Corporate figures out these numbers and I just get to put them in my budget, so.
That, 200, you were talking about Lincoln, correct? The
For-
cost sharing of on the $600,000.
For Lincoln's in
So that's about $250,000. What's that work out with in terms of per resident?
I don't know, but they do it over 10 years. So you only get that, you get 10, so you do it over 10 years, so it'd be about $25,000 a year that they would pay towards that fire truck. I don't know about per resident, I wouldn't know that.
You know, a price worth paying.
Yeah, well, Deputy Mayor, the biggest thing that we bring to the table, one of the things we're doing right now is we're working within our mutual aid group to, work on our insurance underwriters, our Superior Tanker Shuttle. So we're working on that right now. Actually, the council of Ormonto, the two councilors in Lincoln, want me to do the Superior Tanker Shuttle in Lincoln. And if we do that, what happens is, we get a benefit from insurance underwriters. Not only we get a benefit, but all the fire departments that participate in the Superior Tanker Shuttle. So what we need to do is we need to go out and we need to haul water not from a hydrant, but haul water with tankers in a rural area picked by insurance underwriters with travel distances, Richard, it's 5-8 kilometers. They pick the place, we can't pick the place. We gotta run water, we're gonna do residential at 200 gallons per minute. I think, in commercial is 600.
That's how they determine our rates.
And then basically what we do is once we get that, we already had that, it expired. And some insurance companies are still using it. Then when people go to buy insurance, you get a cheaper rate because we have that Superior Tanker Shuttle. So we're all the fire departments, actually, we had a meeting up in Hamwell the other night, and that was one of the things we're working on. So actually, we're actually working on that with the association. We're gonna take the lead on it, set that up.
So another question with your budget. So are there plans to expand, your stations, maybe put a third station in, or is there, because I know Ormonto has grown?
Well, not a third station, we're looking to replace Station 1, which is 68 years old. It won't burn down to its full asbestos. I tell it,
By 2013.
The mayor. It's funny, we get in a council meeting, I say to the mayor, well, we got asbestos of mildew, but we are not first in line. As you know, what's first in line in the town of Ormonto is not fire station number 1. Okay, it's a new cultural center, right? So once the cultural center is figured out, we are on the budget, on the long range planning for the town for a new fire station at $12 million. And, that's what, for Station 1, and we're looking at some renovations, Station 2 before that.
And that's just the station costs, not equipment.
Oh, yeah, we're okay, well, I shouldn't say we're okay with equipment because the equipment just moved in, right? And we're not looking to add a station, we just recently done a fire services review. We had in 2023, we did a fire station review, in 2024, we did a 10-year master plan. In our 10-year master plan, so we've got a good plan for what we need. The fire station is one of our top things. Our equipment replacement is in our master plan, and we basically, council went to Capital Barrow. We've got 2 trucks coming in this year. One's coming in at the end of this year. We ordered them about a year ago. One's coming in at the end of this year, and one's coming in April of next year, which catches our fleet replacement plan up. And then, we're on track to keep going with that with our master plan. We're adding a few more full-time positions in our master plan. We're going from 22 for our firefighters to 24 on shift, or without, we're still gonna go with 4 on shift, but we're gonna have a staff of 6. What we're running into now, council's a lot of, long-term illness. Got a lot of people out for like 2 years at a time with different illnesses and stuff. So that's a struggle for us in a small small fire department, so count our master plan basically indicating we need to decrease that. And, we added another assistant deputy chief. We only had one assistant deputy chief. The last time we were here to speak to you 2 years ago was one. Now we've got two, in the master plan.
You mentioned you're getting a new truck coming up, and then you're gonna be wanting to replace the other one, you a tanker truck. Are you gonna be retiring a tanker truck, or are you gonna have like?
Yes, yeah. So once we've got a policy in the town, when we bring a new axle in, we retire an axle. So that we don't, you know what I mean? We don't feel that we need it. We feel we've got the right number of vehicles that we need to do what we need to do with our two stations on a regional basis. So we're just, as soon as one begin, we'll just get rid of one because we don't need the added cost of keeping it around. So. And that's our contact information here. Any questions? Good.
What's your response time?
Our average response time, Richard, we ran the numbers, was 12.6 minutes.
12.04 minutes
0.04.
in 2024, when I ran the number.
Now, some of them are longer.
Yeah.
Right, some of them are shorter, different average, right? So we'll, that's why we try to do things like, sorry, Counselor, go ahead.
Oh, no, you can finish.
What's that?
You can finish.
You can finish, she said.
Oh, well, that's why we try to have people embedded in the community like Matt, right? So once we get somebody as senior as Matt, we've got some other firefighters in your community. I think there's three in your.
With 3 of us.
Radius, and some of them are just new, so we don't set them up that way, because we don't want to put a new firefighter in that position when they show up at a structure fire and have to be like, possibly like a death situation. But once they get enough time with us, then we set them up, and we set them up with a radio, and I think you have a first aid kit too, don't you?
Yeah, first aid kit, radio, basic gear, and then just takes experience so that you can show up at a call, make an evaluation, work with citizens, like if it's a motor vehicle accident, usually there's people all over the place, so you gotta take charge of the situation, right? Kind of get people to do what you need them to do, make an assessment, contact the chief, like there's a lot of things, and then call those regular reports in. So you really want somebody in more senior role to do that, and then you get a better outcome. But yeah, it's within probably after 2 years. 2 years of being on the department, you kind of move into that role. We have a new computer system, where we have a new tracking system called First Due, and that really tracks our response times and stuff, so we can keep an eye on that, so. That's what, the advantage we get, council, is we get the advantage of, we got, right now, we got 4 people sitting in a fire station ready to go. So as soon as it goes, they're going, we're on the road. Where on the volunteer side, you gotta get your people in from home to the fire hall, load the trucks up and go. And so that's where we like the fact that we get that quick run at the door for you, get a truck on its way to you, get a chief with them. And then as the volunteers filter in, lots of times we have volunteers in the community there. And then as the volunteers filter in, we get the other trucks on the road, get it. So.
When we looked at, the structure fire from Sunbury-York, for instance, 2 weeks ago, response time, first engine was on scene, first officers were on scene in 12 minutes. For the structure fire in Sunbury. Pretty quick response, given the location. Supplementary resources were on scene within 4 minutes, I think 17-minute mark. We had a second tanker on scene, stretching additional both lines. So, Captain Coleman was on scene as well, stretching a secondary line. So the response in some of our areas is quite quick. And I'll be joining you for your community in a couple of months when my house is done. I'll be running the 655, so me and my command vehicle will be there for anything large.
Johnson.
When you go out to structure fires, like some folk, if you were to run out of water, where would you go fill up, or would you just call in another truck?
Yeah, so there we went to the Moore Bridge.
Okay.
So that's where we went that day.
Yeah.
We basically down there, we set up pumps. Or we do one of two things, we either set up pumps and pump out of the river into our trucks and fill them. Or we put another fire truck there and hit grass and fills the other fire trucks.
Okay.
Do one of two things there. Or if we're on the other side, we'll go to the rec center and use the tank there. Now, the tank at the rec center is only getting 8,000 gallons in it, and the usable was 7,000 gallons, but there's, you can't get every ounce of water of it. So what that does for us is, if we're into a regular, like a fire like we had on the Sunbow, that'll put the fire out and then we'll go back and fill it up later. But if we're into a big fire, that'll hold us over until we get future aid in. We get more tankers and then we'll move to the river and get our getting water at the covered bridge, or the Moore Bridge. And then that tank will be empty. But it gave us, you know, 4 or 5 loads of water to hold us over until we could get Frederick Junction, New Maryland, Fredericton, you know, and Boyd in with us. Once those tankers come in, then we've got more tankers, we got more time, we can start going to the river and fill it on. Well, that's what it helps us with.
Is there any sort of, like, again, I don't know, but like equipment or not so much equipment, but like infrastructure that would be easier or quicker for you when you have to go pump from a river or like?
Yeah, that's a good question, Counselor. There's a dry hydrant concept so basically it's a big straw. It's a 6-inch pipe that goes down and goes into and you might see those around. If you go down Douglas Harbor, there's some down that way. We have one out in Gary as we're on. The biggest problem we have is you can't do that. The Richard Morning stream just doesn't have enough water into it. You gotta have, what it works best on is in a pond where the water is not like, New Maryland's got one up at, Prices. What's that? Yeah. Yeah, and they've got one at Prices too, don't they, or do they have one there? Not sure. They've got one in a pond. If we could find a pond that's, you know, that's not on private, because that's the problem, you can't, you know, people don't want you to dig up their private property and put it under, but that's what, in Gary, we were able to put it in the right of way for the road, when they did some work on the bridge, we put DPI and put it in there. And then the other problem we have is if we do put one in, what happened was in Gary, the ice come through and tore our strainer. So now we're getting a diver out there to fix it and put it underneath where the tanks are a little bit more, there's not much water, but that's one of the things. But if anybody knows about a really good spot with a deep, you know, any pot of water that stays that way year round, it doesn't move, and not a lot of ice, we'd be interested. It's not on private property. And I know there's a lot of moving parts to that.
Any other questions from any member of the council? On behalf of myself and council, I'd like to thank you very much for coming and giving us the presentation. As always, very informative.
Okay, well, thank you, Your Worship. We appreciate you allowing us to come in, and if you ever need anything, we're willing to help you and work with you on anything, especially that tank. Want to push out again, we're good on that. Okay. We'll just get out of your hair here and thank you very much, Chief. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Steve, well.
Yeah, it's been done.
Okay, what about?
85 or 83 and 11.
Go down to all of them. Branch station 40 hours, so all the branches. Give them. I'm 20. Bottom, so you just got. Today. Yeah. We've been there. Yeah, it was.
Be like that today, though.
We're to see how we can have that. You're in January. I see there's. Let's go down. Like, yeah, longer. Oh, here. Yeah. It's like pretty filling for us. Yeah.
Next up on the agenda, we have the strategic guidance document. Councilor Standish.
There, yeah, look through that. So this is, as discussed, what we are proposing, would like endorsement. The first two sections, section 1, section 2, are, well, they're drawn, but those are especially drawn heavily from our working community at the open houses, with goals, things of that sort, and from our background. Work on that. So I would say, like, at the end of the day, this is council's document to amend and change and endorse how they want. But I do think that I'm pretty confident that these sections reflect what. And then it's kind of on us to decide how we want to implement it. And that is if you look at the final sections, sections 3 and onward 4. These are things more specifically that we're suggesting, or maybe a way to go about doing something, but are certainly much more, for council to deliberate on or other and decide whether they want to implement the first part. They're meant, the sections 3 and 4 are meant to be a more practical element for the first two sections. The first two sections kind of frame the picture. What we've learned in 3 and 4 and on are just, are meant to be practical suggestions on how to actually make these decisions. I don't know, I know you guys wanted to have a chance to ask questions, so I don't think there's not much else to add on my end that we haven't talked about yet. Questions right here. Cheval's here, we're both here to answer whatever we can.
Thank you, Councilor Simmons. Councilor Shepherd, you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, because we've gone over this already, was there any big changes since you last presented this?
So none from when we presented to that council.
Yes, right.
The key of the whole, it would be flushed out a little bit. That's so standard thoughts, nothing from.
Deputy Mayor Long.
Bring me up to date if you would. Has the consultant started his work? Have there been dates set for community engagement?
We're very close, so actually, a quick update, I'll use that, we had our second meeting on Tuesday, our second working group. They are going to, the region is going to fund a mail out, which is very good. We do think that's very important in terms of getting that information out. There's gonna be an open house, we're just settling the dates, it's gonna be about a month from now, a month and a week or so, early July is what we're going to do. That's, and that is actually the consultant is handling, like I asked him, what does he expect from the rest of the members of the working group? They are going to be handling most of that, which is good. I think there'll be an extra voice there and stuff like that. But yeah, so
Is
that,
it one?
there's gonna be 2 open houses and then a public hearing. And then, of course, the rural plan itself has to be adopted by council, as the Bible, I think it is. So that's to go through the normal reading. So there's a lot of opportunity for public engagement in addition to the working group.
Councilor Noble.
Just on the working group, how many residents have you got?
So as of right, as of Tuesday, we had, Mr. Bell, for 3 in addition to you. 3 residents. 3 residents total, and myself, and then there's other people who have voiced interest, but haven't, shown up yet, so. Mr. Claire, he's happy with people coming when they can, he's not, if people don't come show up the first one, the later ones. He's just happy to have an engagement. We did try to get people, down, but it's good.
So to expand on that, sorry. For you,
Councilor Harvey.
through you, Mayor, to Councilor Standish, to expand on that, how have you been recruiting the people? Because I haven't seen anything anywhere for recruiting, asking if anyone wants to help out on these working groups.
We've posted a number of places, it was called months ago. I posted on.
I know you did through your group, but I mean.
We're gonna into it. We try to be public through here, through the council, talking about it as much as we could. That's why, and that was what this whole process here was for as well. This was specifically, or very specifically, one of the main goals was to draw attention and engagement with that.
Okay.
So the, do you want to know if you have one?
So for the CRSC working group, how have you been recruiting?
Well,
For
first
that.
of all, this entire process has been entire for that, and then additional posts, again, it's not a few weeks, but we talked about it at every single one, well, our open houses, every single one that we talked about it, saying this is coming up and people's engagement. Trying to be honest with you. I think we mentioned it in our initial flyers as well. We went over it pretty thoroughly in our first interviews. And we are happy to take more people, trying to get a thing.
I would suggest you do a different recruitment because it is actually a different working group. Because you are working on the rural plan,
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
on your strategic.
Yeah, and
guidance.
that's what we tried. We've had all three of the community members we had on Tuesday, none of them were involved in this.
That's great.
Um,
I really appreciate it.
yeah, 3 or 2. So I noticed in section 3 and in section 4, they didn't really, in my eyes, relate to rural planning, more like this, and this, right? So my understanding of the rural plan is the use of your land, the zoning of your land, the different categorizations of zonings in the different areas. Is that correct?
That is, there was two purposes for this portion of the first was a big overall strategic kind of picture we wanted to get from the community, not just regards to road planning. We were pretty, talked about that a lot at our open houses and, we went to the board. It was meant though to lead into the rural plan, which we came from. So we wanted to get a sense of what the community wanted from a lot of different issues. And then specifically into the board. So it was meant, this is meant to be more than just the rural planning part. But once it's at the stage, start with the big picture, and then you're moving down into the details. Well, but it's council's prerogative details. This is just us kind of reporting on what we found.
And I believe what you said earlier was you had 70 respond, approximately 70 respond on your survey.
I think I haven't checked. We left it up because we saw no reason not to let people respond on anything wanted. I think we were at close to 75 as of the presentation to council. For me, the whole, it would have been a month ago, I think it was, when we did the presentation. So that we had 40 plus people from the
And I really appreciate the work that all of you and your volunteers have done in Councillor Allen, as well as in, sorry. And you, because I know you've put a lot of effort and time into this, and I really appreciate it. I just have a hard time because I believe a rural plan review is something totally different than a strategic plan. And this is not a strategic plan. It didn't go through a whole strategic plan process. And while I appreciate the information that's in there, I myself personally, I would have a hard time saying we're following this. I would say accept it for information purposes. Only. That's my
That
thought.
is specifically why we avoided calling it a strategic plan. Because that's a much bigger process, and that's a process that's for council, not a process for maybe each council sets a community, but that wasn't really what we saw our role as. It was the background, the strategic background, gathering a lot of information so that when, hey, first of all, moving into these things, there's a lot of issues in the community we thought needed to be basically written down. We know what the community had said, we wanted to get it in a kind of a formal format, but then it also gives us the leverage when we're dealing with the rural plan to say, hey, our community said they wanted to be A, B, and C, and council has agreed and said this is what the community said we wanted to be A, B, and C. So then that strategic level, I think we can move us down to like that. Like you guys are tactful of community.
And I have some concerns with some of the information in this document. One, for instance, when you say it's incentivize and medical professions, to me, that falls under the provincial Minister of Health portfolio. And I don't think us as a community, we have the experience, the knowledge, or the money to do something like that.
Yeah, and actually, that's a very interesting one. And incentivize, I picked that very carefully. So one of the more interesting pieces that came out that I wasn't necessarily expecting, a lot of people said they would really like to have some sort of medical thing. People came up with a whole bunch of ideas, like, oh, we could build a building, or we could rent from them. That isn't for us that isn't for this committee to try to promote, but we wanted to put that fact that the community, multiple times, multiple people, multiple different places, ask for something along that line. Again, these sections 3 and 4, these are for council to figure out. These are just us saying, hey, these are some things we can.
It's to me, I would like to see the wording work with, you know, push them in.
That's why we're saying incentivize, because like, we're not, I don't think we're going to build a building, we're not, certainly not, we're not going to hire a doctor as a local community. But incentivizing, it's a very broad term for saying, something we want to talk about. Again, and that's for council to talk about.
I could go on, but I think it's your time. I'll let we were late, that was a long presentation by the fire department, so I think we need to.
Okay, any other questions from any members of council regarding the council spending and his team's work? There's nothing further, Councilor Shepherd?
No, Mr. Mayor, just be so, on Tuesday, we are gonna vote on this as, like, kind of to accept the report, is that the plan for Tuesday?
Accepting the report as.
I guess, sorry, one thing that was through you, Mayor, to the Councilor Standish, one thing that does concern me is where you had the, on page 5, under governance committee. You have on there that you would like the governance committee to variances, bylaws and or variances are submitted to council. Are you talking about planning variances?
Yeah, one of the things that we talked about, I can't necessarily well talk about this because he had some good thoughts on that. But we are concerned that with that committee, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in our community with their planning part that we, as a council, aren't informed on and don't really, that just happened to us. So this is us saying, we think that, again, with this committee stuff, a lot of these we know these are doing. So we think that would fall most realistically under the purview of that, as opposed to any other current committees. So Mr. Lavelle, did you want to announce?
Clarify the question.
So you have stated there that when bylaws and or variances are submitted to council, that you wanted the governance committee to do noting points or follow up on action and investigation. So to me, variance is a planning matter. I don't believe that was the role of the policy and governance committee to take on planning related matters.
It's the observation is not necessarily that the governance committee is going to be introducing variances. It's that when variances or bylaws, things of that nature come to council and they're discussed. And there's follow-on information required, following investigation. The recommendation is that a committee of the council, governance committee is suggested, but a committee of the council should have a positive obligation to come back to council at large with the answers to those questions, especially if those questions are necessary for a member of council to pass their vote. So it's assigning, and I apologize to Councilor Mobley, not read, wasn't out when this was drafted. But the idea behind that entire section is to delineate specifically which committee is responsible for which follow-on activities prior to a general council meeting and vote.
And just to expand on that, point 2 says that to keep a register of bylaws, that is a duty of the clerk, not a duty of the committee to do that. So there's some things in that area that do not accurately reflect the roles and responsibilities of staff and of the mayor and of the purpose of an established committee already. So I would have concerns. I have concerns with that.
Councilor, thank you, Mr. Lavelle. Councilor Allen.
So, Mr. Mayor, just a council as a general comment, this is a strategic guidance document, it's not a mandate. So council, of course, is going to determine what the committees do and how they act and behave and look. So it's a nice, but we may choose, council may choose to ignore this in the future, this particular component, so I don't think it's really a big deal. Because we're not gonna adopt this document as this is the blueprint of how it's gonna go. Would be kind of a nice sort of, maybe something to look at as we move along, reference, maybe do it, maybe don't.
Nope, excellent motivation, Counselor. Counselor Noel. Good, your hands up with the minutes.
Oh, for variances, from my experience, and tell me if I'm speaking wrong, we don't have a say in it at all. Like, we are told variances are going to occur, council is allowed to make a recommendation, and we can recommend yes, and they can ignore that recommendation, which they have many times. So, yes, I would.
I would take that even further, Mr. Mayor. I don't even know if we even get told about variance. If someone wants a chicken coop and they don't have 30, 70 meters or whatever they need, they apply to Proc's approves, that we actually don't even really are involved in that. We're involved with like changing of the landscapes, but on those variants at all, we need 10 meters instead of 20 or something. We're not even involved in that.
Depending on the scenario and which aspects of that come to council for decision. For example, I'll use the previous rezonings that we had discussed with council, regarding business hours.
Yeah.
They had applied, this is what we're recommending. We had actually amended and adjusted that to a different window, and that is what passed. So, but there are circumstances where our votes did not apply in those scenarios for, similar, like or similar use scenarios. Something below one.
Yeah, and yes, we're involved if because there was an actual change in order for him to get that approval, for example, if there was actual change.
Yeah.
I'm referring more to like, and again, the common one was the chicken coops, because you need an X amount of space that you literally can't do on 1 acre lot. So if they apply for a chicken coop, the PRAC approves it or not, it has nothing, we don't ever see that. Like, so if someone's getting.
In some cases, we never.
Like someone's getting approved for a chicken coop, we're not involved. So the variance in that sense, we're not involved. We get involved when it's actually a change to what that actual layout is, whatever, like with the mechanic shop or the whatever that's called. So in a lot of the variances, we do nothing. Like, we're not involved in it. It's correct.
Thank you, Councilor Shepherd. Councilor Stamp.
Mayor, I think like Councilor Shepherd's point, and that's one of the things we're kind of getting at, is that we think that we should have a little more situational awareness of those inform what the community, like, affects members of the community, and we are just, for example, suggesting that the governance committee might be the appropriate person to monitor practice as well.
Councilor Shepherd.
Yeah, so because this is something we faced 2 years ago. Because when I found out the PROC basically ran everything, we actually had no say over it. It was actually very annoying to hear that. And so when we're looking at how do we do it, we actually need to basically have our own system. To like we have to have all these things that CRC has that we don't have in order to take that over. Like, which we'll basically never get to that level.
Mayor, I'm not suggesting taking it over, but we can monitor it, like, we can watch it, like, check their minutes there, make sure that anything happens. Not just more, thinking that there's more information that this community is kind of, it's at least for watch.
Thank you, Councilor Spanish. Councilor Hardwick.
I just had a question with regard to your investigate counselor's composition. Where did that come from?
It was as we went through the process, and actually I'll probably let Mr. Will comment this as well, but,
Was that brought up by residents or was that the committee?
it was one of the things we talked about as a committee, based on the fact that it's important that representatives represent the community. I think that's why it's in this section, it's not so much in the first couple of sections. Did you want to?
That alarmed me, I'm gonna tell you, that section alarmed me because the province just went through the whole municipal reform, right? And they said this is what works best with our community. We're 3 years in and you're saying, hey, wait, maybe we're not doing the right thing,
Well,
right? And that's, pardon?
a lot of things that counties have done. I wouldn't work there.
To me, I think it's premature because we're still a young municipality to determine if the composition or the location or the structure of council is accurate right now. And it's actually a very extensive process to go through to determine if you're at the right composition, if you're at the right representation, or for any local government to do that. Like I've experienced that, and it takes 2+ years to do that, along with a lot of public consultation. And normally you hire consultants to do that for you as well, because it's a very specialized field. So that concerned me when I read that, because I wanted to know where it came
So
from.
I'll let Mr. Willow speak to that, but it doesn't, the idea with that is that, for example, if instead of seeing ourselves as 2 wards, we did find out that people do still seem to talk a lot about more what community living, right? We don't, like only recently over the past couple of, probably half a year, as this local government has kind of been in the news more, we, I think, talk more 1 versus 2. So there is a principle about representative government that is useful to have, like we, people, as we represent the people, that it's useful to have that kind of connection to that, but actually.
Yeah, so council composition, not the number of councillors, and not the number of councillors that are necessary to represent the population of the at large. It is the number of councillors who are applied to a ward versus the number of councillors who are at large. An observation and a concern of the committee moving forward is that you'll have a general election, and that the number of people who would be willing to run for the election may not be able to do so based on what ward they're in. So we could end up in a situation where there's a ward that has very few volunteers to run, and then another ward where you've got a surplus of volunteers to run. So if you restructure the council composition so that you had fewer ward councillors and more councillors at large, you increase the number of people who run for any council position in general election or by-election. The other consideration behind the comment is the workload on the council itself. So if the council is going to run on a 5-committee system and there are 7 councillors, you could set that up where each councillor at large is a committee, and then you have 2 councillors for each ward. The long-term worry here is that the number of work each councillor will have to do, and I appreciate that all the councillors are very hardworking, but if there's 5 committees and every committee needs 2 or 3 councillors, it means that the council table might become full. And there are no councillors, or there may not be enough councillors to focus fully on the committees and then to be available to the constituents. So a option would be to have 7 councillors, 1 for either ward if currently exists, 5 at large, to each run a committee to provide focus to each councillor on specific problems in the community. Another, as Councillor Spanish alluded to, is to look at the community not as 2 wards. Though we are in 2 wards right now, that was not a scientific demographic exercise. That was, this one has a plan and this one has a plan. We'll make each of those ward and we'll bump in the small part in the south. That is how that decision was reached in a provincial analysis of the problem. But perhaps the community is better served having 5 smaller wards, 5 2 very large wards. So Beaver Dam is a coherent kind of area. Nasonworth is a coherent area. The Charters is a coherent area. And Rushville being the biggest one and Lost being a smaller one after that. It is not to suggest that the council composition should be halved or doubled or any of those options. It is more a suggestion that you look at all of the work that needs to be done, both committee work and council work, and the time that is necessary for councillors to go out in the community and rationalize the workload of every member of council so that no one person of the council will be burdened.
They're just to start conversation and this, the things we think may be useful to talk about. As we're talking about tonight, again, that demonstrates why.
So thank you, Mr. Will. Thank you, Councillor Standish. Councillor Kevin.
It's an interesting idea, Mr. Mayor. Do we have authority over that, or is that a province level thing that they set that, or do we actually have that sort of flexibility?
I don't know the answer to that as it stands today. The main driving factors when it was split into 2 wards before and the way it was structured. Actually, Ward 2 has considerably more population than Ward 1. And that's why it had the additional seat versus the 2 on the other side. And then we allowed the 2 for the hybrid version of the councillors at large. That was the thought process. It wasn't overly comprehensive, it wasn't overly detailed. But those were the major driving factors in that decision as of having it set up that way. So, any further?
Just a very quick comment on this RAC organization. Admittedly, we don't have the skills to undertake that planning process and sorts of things. I did appear before RAC on an issue, and it was obvious to me that the decision had been made long before the residents had an opportunity to make their statements. They listened. Really didn't. So I was there and it was a disappointment. I found it to be a disappointing process. I know we don't have the financial resources, the people resources to undertake those, very detailed. It's expressing my disappointment in hearing before that point.
Counselor Hartwood.
I guess I was treating Mayor Councilor Yuan, I would hope that if you, as you say, the decision was made prior to the residents spoke, I would hope that would be based on the legislation and within their control of what the rules were in place, what was allowed, and not just be based on any other reason.
Just as a retort, if for optics only, your residents appear and have their statements, 10 seconds later, the decision's made. Just the optics of that to me were.
Understood. Back to that on the agenda, are there any further questions or discussion around Councilor Standish's documents? There are no further questions or discussion around the document. I thank Mr. Lavelle and Councilor Standish for their efforts, as well as the community, and would encourage others to get more involved in that process as well. Next item on the agenda, internal communications policy, Councilor Noble.
So the Government Policies Committee has come up with 3 policies that are on the agenda this evening. The first one is the internal communications policy. Mayor, would you like me to read it literally? All right, so summary of Southfield Community Internal Communication Policy. 1, purpose. The purpose of this policy is to establish protocols for handling internal communications between members of council and staff of Sunbury-York South Rural Community, SYSRC. 2, policy. The internal communication policy establishes a formalized process to ensure all communication, whether by email or by verbal conversation between members of council and staff, is handled consistently and efficiently. 3, process. A timeframe for a member of council to respond. Any member of council who receives email correspondence directly from any other member of council or staff that is requesting a response or direction will provide a response within 2 business days. If the member of council who is being requested to provide a response or directions is unable to give an answer within 2 business days, at a minimum, the member of council will acknowledge receipt and advise when a response or direction can be provided. Such acknowledgement is to be sent within 2 business days. However, if the matter is time sensitive and it is requested that a response or direction be given earlier than 2 business days, the member of council will make their best effort to respond as soon as possible. 8, time frame for staff to respond. All staff of SYSRC who receive email correspondence directly from any member of council or staff that is requesting a response or direction will provide a response within 2 business days and copy all members of council. If the staff who's requested to provide a response or direction is unable to give an answer within 2 business days, at a minimum, the staff member will acknowledge receipt and advise when a response or direction can be provided. Such acknowledgement is to be sent within 2 business days. However, if the matter is time sensitive and it is requested that a response or direction be given earlier than 2 business days, the staff will make their best effort to respond as soon as possible. C, verbal communication. Any member of council or staff who receives a verbal request from any member of council or staff that is requesting a response or direction, a member of council or staff will respectfully provide an answer immediately or advise when a response can be provided. D, respecting deadlines. All members of council and staff will respect the deadlines set out herein and adhere to any new timeline established. New timeline is set, the member of council or staff who set it will provide regular updates to the sender on the status of the reply. If it becomes apparent that a reply cannot be provided, the member of council or staff will state such fact to the sender and give the reason why it cannot be provided. If the response cannot be provided due to staff absence, the staff will advise all members of council accordingly. 4, effective date, this policy will come into effect upon approval and adoption of council. Should say by resolution at a fully convened council meeting. 5, changes or amendments. No change or amendment to this policy will be effective unless it has been approved and adopted by resolution of council at a duly convened council meeting.
Thank you, Councilor Noble. Any questions or discussion from council? Councilor Hom. Yeah, I did, just wanted to ask that in section 3A and B, and I don't know the wording, but I think, the council's been working on it anyways to make use of some sort of statement to make use of the out of office assistant when applicable or as soon as possible, or as soon as practical. That way if somebody does send a message and they're not waiting 4 days later, so I was out of the office. That would just be a section 4 on 3A and B for both of those staff and council. Any other councilors?
Just to kind of go on to that. I think that's a good idea. When we make use of that in terms of, for example, it's not, I don't think it's big of a deal when staff goes on vacation because they have big weekdays and stuff. But for us, we don't have weekdays or anything like that. Can we use that as a provision for when we're on vacation? So it's kind of
I used mine not too long ago. I was out to the camp. I had to be the cut. I know I'm going away.
Yeah.
I'll just put it out.
I think as long as we just go on there.
There's some reference to it. And we've used it in your field as well.
I did, yeah. Well, it's people that not just council or staff, but also the community, if they send an email like, hey, I'm not ignoring you.
Any other questions or comments or discussion? One satisfied with the wording of that document? I do have one question on section C. Any member of council or staff who receives a verbal request from any other member of council or staff that is requesting a response or direction. Member of council or staff will respectfully provide an answer immediately or advise when a response can be provided. Is that how we want that worded?
Very, very wordy for, if I ask a question, are you gonna give me a response, or say, give me a couple days and I will get back to it with the answer.
Okay. Thank you. No other questions? No further questions, we'll move on to the next item. The council correspondence policy.
Mr. Mayor, just for the sake of time, has this one already been read? Because it's quite long. Didn't we do this already at a previous community hall, or is it new?
No, this is new.
This is the new.
The purchase policy has gone through,
Okay.
but there have been changes
Okay.
through it, but these two policies at first have not been canceled. Which is still in the So Sunbury-York South Rural Community Council correspondence policy. So I apologize because I have amended the first paragraph already. Last night I noticed it was redundant of the second policy section. So the purpose of this policy is to establish protocols for handling all correspondence addressed to the mayor, council, and or members of council of Sunbury-York South Rural Community. So the rest of that section has been changed. 2, policy. The council correspondence policy establishes a formalized process to ensure all correspondence received by SYSRC addressed to mayor, council, and or any member of council is handled consistently and efficiently, filed, tracked, and dispositioned in accordance with the Municipal Records Authority for New Brunswick file plan and retention schedule. 3, correspondence for mayor and council process. 8, correspondence to mayor and council for information. All correspondence received by SYSRC addressed to mayor and council that does not require action will be forwarded to all members of council electronically via email within 2 business days of receipt for information purposes. Examples include an event invitation, a letter of thanks, appreciation, or accommodation, newsletters, annual reports, conference information. The correspondence addressed to mayor and council for action. Correspondence related to operational matters, including letters of inquiry and or complaints from the public, can be acknowledged by any member of council, be directed to the applicable staff for resolution or response. Copies of the request and response will be circulated to all members of council for information. Any matter left not responded to by the applicable staff will be escalated to the office administrator. Correspondence related to a matter that requires a staff report for consideration of council will be held until the item is brought forward on a meeting agenda. At that time, the correspondence will be attached as background to the report. Correspondence related to any planning matter included but not limited to a public meeting that is being managed by the Capital Region Service Commission will be forwarded by the clerk to the Director of Planning for response. Requests for funding support will be processed in accordance with FYSRC grant policy as applicable. Any other type of correspondence requiring action to be taken by council that is not set out above will be reviewed by the clerk and, where applicable, placed on the next regular agenda for consideration of council. If the correspondence must be dealt with immediately and time is of the essence, the clerk will determine the appropriate course of action, which may include the recommendation to hold a special council meeting. Any member of council can request that any correspondence received that has not been placed on an agenda be put on the next available agenda. All correspondence placed on any public agenda will be redacted in accordance with the Right to Information and Protection of Privacy Act, unless written consent has been granted by the sender to release the information. 4. Correspondence for member of council process. Private and confidential correspondence. All correspondence received by mail, courier, or hand delivered addressed to any individual member of council and marked private or confidential will not be opened, and the council member will be notified by the clerk that the mail has arrived within 1 business day. The correspondence received by a member of council. Any member of council who receives correspondence directly that is not addressed to council or mayor and council may respond to it on an individual basis or forward it to the appropriate staff for direct response to the sender. Staff will copy the member of council on all responses. These types of correspondence are not required to be included on any meeting agenda unless the member of council wishes to bring it forward for consideration by council or request the clerk to place the correspondence on the next available agenda in accordance with the procedural bylaw. 5. General procedures. A. Time frame for staff to acknowledge receipt and formally respond. Any correspondence that is forwarded to staff for direct response to the sender must be responded to in a timely manner. An acknowledgement of receipt of the correspondence should be sent within 2 business days, followed by a response within 5 business days. However, if direction is required from council, the sender will be advised accordingly. The time frame to respond is extended to 30 business days. The official response. All correspondence requiring an official response will be responded to in the same manner as it's received. Example, if a correspondence is received by email, an email response will be sent. If correspondence is received by regular mail will be sent. The correspondence requiring no action. The following type of correspondence received will not be acknowledged and filed in accordance with our municipal records authority. Pardon? In Brunswick.
File planning retention.
Anonymous complaint that there is a reason to believe that the situation involves life and or safety issues. Unsolicited goods and services will not be acknowledged or retained. Any inappropriate, offensive, misleading, harassing, or threatening correspondence. If the correspondence requires legal or police intervention, it will be directed to the RCMP and or legal counsel following discussion with the mayor or deputy mayor. Effective date. This policy will come into effect upon approval and adoption and council by resolution at a duly convened council meeting. 7 changes or amendments. No change or amendment to this policy will be in effect unless it has been approved and adopted by resolution of council at a duly convened council meeting.
Thank you, Councilor Noble. Any questions or comments or discussion from council? Councilor Payne, one question there.
To Councilor Neal. In. On, page 3 or 4, under 4 Bravo, it says these types of correspondence are not required to be included on our meeting agenda. Maybe I just missed this somewhere else. Are there other types that are required to be on the agenda? I'm just curious what that was referring to. I'm not disagreeing with that line being there, I'm just curious what the reason was for that.
Yes, we did put some with the.
I might have,
Correspondence related to a matter that requires staff report for consideration will be held until the item is brought forward for the agenda.
okay, that's for me, I might have just missed
Yeah,
that.
there was a lot going on.
Any other questions or discussion? No other, Councilor Shepherd?
I just want to say thank you to the members of this committee, because I know we need this policy, but I'm sure they took some time and they're a little tedious, but I'm thankful that you guys went through the effort to do this.
Amen. Agreed. Any other discussion or question? Bring that up. There are no further questions. I will ask Councilor Shepherd, do you have any objections to moving to the purchase policy before the item D? And then we can clean all of those up.
This one's been read.
Yes, it's just for review.
This one has gone through before. Would you like to do it?
The wish of council to have that policy read in its entirety.
I was saying,
It's already been read.
These-
Sure, it was last meeting. Right?
it was, but there was a change to the expenditures within the approved budget.
Yeah, like obviously highlight any big changes, but
Did you go over any of the amendments made, Councilor Nolan?
So originally, we had it set at $250 excluding taxes, so the treasurer order designate are authorized to purchase goods and services within the approved budget up to $250. It's been changed to $1,000 in this policy. And then any purchase of goods and services within the approved budget over 1,000 would come to council. So that is up to council to deliberate on the wish. Before, like I said, it was 250, they had approval up to, and then from 250, but less than 1,000, it would go to the mayor for approval. Over 1,000, it would go to council.
We keep that just for, add a section 4 that, for purchases over $250.99 must go to the mayor, just by text message or something, doesn't really matter. And report it to the financial audit and risk committee.
Where's that?
So I was just saying, add a section 4, purchases over 250, yeah, or 1B, yep. Purchases over 250 up to 99 must be approved by the mayor and reported to the financial audit and risk. Could be, loose approval.
3, not 4. 3 we have around.
And adding,
No, I'm adding a section.
so purchases over to, 250 to 999 range is what you're proposing?
Would be approved by the mayor, could be done by something as simple as a text message, and reported to the financial audit and risk.
Councilor Hardwick?
Just for clarification, through you, Mayor, to Councillor Alley, so for clarification that the policy was amended to exclude the mayor on any approvals. It was requested that it be put to $1,000, that staff be permitted to make authorized purchases on budgeted items up to $1,000. And then after $1,000, they would have to come to council. So I'm just kind of wondering, so are you asking for anything a new pair, so they want,
A new pair, yes,
so then that limit would be brought back to 250, correct?
but not to come to council.
Yeah, so you
And
want
just-
the original form.
Yeah, right, so it's very niche, so it's very loose, so that, you know, maybe, when the next, if there's another clerk in the future, they just send a text or something, boom, go and pick up, and it was easy. Okay,
Yeah, no, I,
but then that report comes to financial audit and risk, so that all exclusions be reported, but put on a report, that report can be something generated simply in like, I think we use H50, just expenses, boom.
although I'm on that committee, my position was 1,000 was too high for staff to have approval within budget based on past purchases.
But I think.
And nothing to the current staff we have or whatever. I just think that we have these policies to put in place to tighten those shoelaces. And if you keep it at $1,000, I don't think it's tight enough. So I personally would like that $1,000 brought down.
But I'm offering a way to do that quickly,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to not tie the hands unofficially, not the hands.
Susan, how often do you go over 250 on your expenses?
Unplanned.
Within
Well,
your,
you're not talking on plan because you're talking in the approved budget.
How else?
So you're not talking in the unplanned, you're talking approved budget.
How would an urgent issue go over 250, though you couldn't send a text message to the mayor and say, hey, that he would be able to respond? How often would that happen? That it would be urgent, have to be done right now, right this second, without the ability to just send a text off to the mayor and go, okay. How often would that happen? Ever?
Yeah, it would. I can't say here right now on the spot how many times that's gonna happen or whatever, but $1,000 in an approved budget. And I go back to that approved budget, expenditures within the approved budget. You have approved the budget. You have approved the budget. So, for example, Cindy's Sage program that she runs all the finances on and all payroll
Mhm.
is well over $1,000. It's over 2,000.
And it's a thing every year, I'm not going to council to renew it, it's just a thing
Yeah.
every year.
So
But it's in the budget.
But you're talking about approved budget. So if you put in the office, if you want to do the office, that's where the big conflict is. If you do the budget and you say you have $2,000 for the year to buy your budget, to buy your expenses in the office and everything like that. And I'll use the easel as an example. I just went out and bought an easel, $269 for an easel. So I was gonna have to take the time and instead of just ordering the easel and get it in, it's going, because it's on the budget, I've got the $2,000 sitting in the office budget. If I've spent my $2,000 right now, I can't buy anything without coming to council.
So was it urgent?
Yeah, it was. We had to borrow one from the the town of Armucto, to have a meeting here one night. That was pretty embarrassing.
Why was it a lack of planning that ended up resulting in us not having it in time? Or was the meeting sprung on us last minute?
There was not one in the office that should have been under the office supplies before.
But so the meeting wasn't sprung on us last minute. Like, so if we had the meeting in 20 minutes and we need to go get an easel right now, it was, the meeting was scheduled days ahead of time, weeks ahead of time. We have a trend that seems.
I know. I understand that. And what I'm asking is that the trend be
So. The trend we have is we've tried to see, waiting the last minute to do things. as
yeah,
opposed to being
which we don't anymore.
No, so, and I'm not talking about staff specifically, so. A lack of planning on somebody's part does not constitute an emergency on mine.
So,
Like, so if we knew about the meeting a week ahead of time.
so
Can you finish that train of thought?
If we knew about it a week ahead of time, why would we 5 minutes before the meeting or the day before the meeting to go get it, sort of thing? Like, why not? I like to get things done, like if I like prepare a document for our meeting next week. I'm working on that now and making sure I have all the stuff, have all the stuff ready. So if I know I need to bring a laptop to present, I'll make sure I have my laptop, like, just, you know, I know things happen, but
A presenter could tell you 2 hours before the meeting that they need, like the consultant that came the other night called me on the day of the meeting and said, what do you have there for equipment for presentation?
and
For the
if they
meeting.
do, it's not our fault for not having one. And it's not an urgent process. That to me is like, if somebody pulls that stunt, then, okay, I can go out and spend probably a higher price on a piece of equipment and go grab it for this presentation than I could if I went on.
You are tying, and you are tying your office stand, you are tying, handcuffing, whatever you want to use. You are doing that to your staff and not being able to let them run the office like it should be run. If you're gonna put that much of a restriction on your office staff, then maybe you shouldn't have an office staff.
Or a budget.
I would like to speak on the issue. I know Councillor Shepherd has been waiting in line, so I'll yield my time.
I guess, Mr. Mayor, the only thing, I guess, the problem that we're trying to solve is because we have very broad, budget lines, right? Like the office expense is a very large number, like it's, I think, 100,000 or something, very broad number. Not expense like as in, like, there's a number for like office administration maybe or something. It's a very large, broad area. And so I guess the problem we're trying to solve, and so how do we solve this question, is that under that broad area, if something comes up, like for example, a Christmas party, right? If we can say this is an office Christmas party, and so we can spend $999 on a Christmas party because it's under a budget of office administration, office running, and then we look really dumb when that happens. So I guess that's the problem we're trying to solve. So is there a middle ground of 500 before we need the mayor to do it, or, like, I guess that's what we're trying to solve. Because and again, as Councillor Allen said, I don't expect it's an issue now, but what about down the road, right? Like when we have that broad authority, $1,000, you know, the community notices when you spend $1,000 inappropriately, as we should. And so I guess my question is, where's the middle ground so we can still function, but we're not having such things happen? Okay? I don't know what that number is. 1,000's probably okay, you know, but yeah, that's the issue, is that we still could end up with a $999 Christmas party.
Councillor Hardwick, you had your hand raised previously.
I did. I would like to echo what Councillor Shepherd has said. There has been a history of very questionable purchases. And another one, you had a bunch of Stanley mugs purchased, right? Where are those? You have these green pens here purchased. You had other books purchased. It was in the budget. This is to help have those eyes, because there were purchases done in the past, and I do not want those mistakes going forward. And unless you have those shoestrings tied, it may happen.
But Councillor, what we're talking about here is not going out and doing marketing. The things you just said, if you're gonna buy those things, that should be under a line called marketing. We're talking about office expenditures. We're talking about equipment. We're not talking about going out and buying pens and mugs and books. We're not talking about that at all. Not at all. What I'm talking about here is I'm talking about office equipment. If a printer breaks down, then we are allowed to go out and buy the printer. For example, I have something right now ordered from Runnet that we need for our smart board. We needed a cart for our smart board. Before taxes, it was under $1,000, so I ordered it. I just got a quote on the renovations in here to have lighting and everything installed in here because everyone, I was asked to do that. It was over $1,000, so that will be coming to council. So it's things like that. You have to trust your staff. I know what happened in the past. I was there and I know what happened in the past. When you hire your next clerk, you're going to make sure that that clerk has the same values that you do. And this council does. And you're going to tell them right up front, we do not expect you to be buying or doing this or doing that without our approval. But to tie their hands not to be able to run the office is not right. And I don't know what municipality would do it.
Deputy Mayor Long.
I don't know what number council will arrive at, but I'm all right with the treasurer or their designate being able to authorize purchases of approved budget items up to $1,000 excluding taxes. Now, the council on Allen's point, you really have immediate access to check that stuff through your finance committee. You can check that stuff. It's not that it goes on for 2 or 3
Checking
years.
checking is not gonna make you any good after it's spent. $1,000 for a smart board card, we don't even have the smart board.
Excuse me, yes, we do. And it's not a chart, it was a cart. That the smart board will go on. And then when we have the EOC, it can be moved from there over to here. So I will stand behind that purchase with my life. Because you're gonna need that smart board when we have things over there in the boardroom, and you're gonna need the smart board over here when we have the EOC activated.
Just to try to finish my point. I'm okay with that. And I know we're gonna have a finance and audit committee that can periodically, as much as they want,
Exactly.
check these purchases and keep track on that. So I'm all
I have a
right with
problem with
that.
that at all.
And I do think the staff needs the ability to run the office. Emergencies are gonna pop up here and there and so on. I'm okay with the, item, I guess it's B we're talking about?
Yeah.
B1, I'm okay.
So, the staff is working on a budget, we're gonna be doing that soon, we're gonna motion to get council working on it soon in the next meeting. So if we can, where I could move towards this is if we had in the budget, for example, very detailed like I have in cloud, because we don't have a lot of line items, it would be nice to have it very specific, so maybe see, other office expenditures, we break that down a little more detailed, Sage 100, computer parts, printer parts, I think we have a ridiculously.
So more detailed breakdown.
Well, a more detailed breakdown of every item. That way we don't have to ask the staff to come and approve, like we know that Sage 50 is $1,500, that's approved, that's in the budget. So what I want to see if we're gonna expand those numbers is I want to see a budget that's very tight on, office supplies is going to includes paper, pens, clipboards, It's listed what it includes, these items. It's $1,000 for the year. Furniture might break, reserve for replacing broken furniture, not buying new furniture. So get a real detail. I know the staff are working on the budget, I've seen some documents that are looking excellent. So I think we can get to this, if we get that level of detail, then we don't have to worry about that because it's already there in the level of detail of the budget and it's approved. And then I'm good with that. Like, if we do have an office operating budget of $10,000 a year, a very small amount, sure, go buy your emergency, whatever we need out of that. I don't even see the need for, if it's that one particular item, I don't even see the need for the limit on that, as long as everything else is very detailed in what we're gonna get. And then we can look at, we'll look at that budget too, because this is probably a discussion for another time, but for example, the total time. Those types of things are different. I did buy some light bulbs, it's better, I put 100 watt light bulbs here. It's good, just,
Anything further, Councilor?
no, but, so. I don't know if we're gonna add that part or not, but I think until we do have that, the last budget, like Councilor Jefferson said, is very broad. I think we should maybe look at something that in place and then look at maybe removing it after that budget has been removed.
You're gonna start your budget pretty soon.
No, I know, but our new budget, you're gonna start till January 1st of 2026, so until then, it's a heads message.
Okay. Councilor Stanton?
Mayor, over the past few months, as I have talked to my support lady of finance committee, it was for the very specific reason of being able to work with the budget much more closely. Like, my understanding has always been that would be why you want the committee to look into that. So, I think, not that it should be given, it's going to be stating it, but that's absolutely what it should be done. I'm good with that 1,000, but I think that the finance committee is completely within their purview again to make sure that the budget goes into that detail and that they're asking the questions like, oh, do we really need, this or that, not for that, and they'll be like, yes or no. And then it's the rest of us as well as community as a whole. We have a lot more people that say, yeah, we talked about that, and we're asking the question, yeah, we talked about that, these are the reasons. So I'm in favor of keeping it at 1,000, but I definitely, it's with the understanding that the budget this year is going to be a lot over.
Thank you. Before I move over to Councilor Shepherd, I will remind all of council, there are 9 minutes left. And I will remind them again shortly if we need to extend. So Councilor Shepherd?
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, maybe that is the middle ground I was trying to see if we could come to, that let's keep it at 1,000, but with the understanding that, hey, we're gonna try to really tighten the budget, not just in less spending, but as in more specific lines, so there's more clear delineation rather than these broad like $200,000-300,000 lines. More delineation, I think that's a reasonable middle ground, if I was to think that's
Fair. Any further questions or discussions, Councilor Allen?
So yeah, I just want to reiterate, I will support that middle ground once the new budget's in place. Until that budget is in place, I definitely want to see a sign off. Because we can't do anything about an expenditure after it's been made.
So can I just ask you a question again, Alan? Then you don't trust the staff you have in the office or?
That is not the,
That's the message you're sending here.
so that's not the message I'm trying to send. It's oversight responsible to the
Yeah,
public.
but that's
Okay?
how, that's
So
what
the
your
public-
staff feels. And we don't mind saying it.
We
Don't trust the staff we have in the office right now.
We almost had another meal incident. I bought lunch, dinner for all the council and the people in the training session, except for no case of council shepherds. And save us from another embarrassment.
Yes.
The community will find out about this and they're gonna ask, and it's their money we're spending. So I wanna just continue to have that level of oversight. And I think $250 is reasonable. Maybe put $1,000 emergency fund aside, where you have the emergency fund that is just for that emergency. You don't contact them, you don't, you put the receipt in, the emergency, what's the emergency, and then audit can review that. And then refund, and then increase, then top up the fund. Maybe we can do something like that, but
So what,
I'm answering to people. We got staff / counseling the public.
I told them the answer to them.
so I just like to know through to Councilor Noble, this is a policy we're voting on
On Tuesday.
Tuesday night. Thank you, just wanted to.
Councilor Herbert?
I would just like to add, it's not an indication that we don't trust you. I personally have not seen the actuals of what we have spent to date. I do not know what the line items are. None of that has been provided to me. So trust is earned, and it's earned with facts.
Yeah.
And I have not seen those
No
facts.
one has asked for that yet. Cindy has not been asked this year by any of you counselors for the budget where we're at. Have you? Have you been asked for actuals?
Corey and I are working on that line, but
Right, for example, you have not been asked this year yet by any counselors where we are, for actuals. right now.
I will remind you, I am 2 months in, new,
Yes.
and there is a finance and audit committee that was created.
We are,
And it's
well,
like,
council.
excuse me, I'm talking. And that the finance and audit committee, is my understanding, will be looking at the budget. So this policy is put into place to make sure that past mistakes do not happen. The budget right now is too broad. I don't know what's being spent, and I'm pretty sure the majority of us do not know what has been spent on the budget. And yes, the policy, the Finance and Audit Committee will be having that opportunity to look at those things, but to say, well, no one has asked for that, I don't find that, why aren't those reports being shared anyways, right? Like normally, quarterly, like every municipality I have been involved with, the finance has provided those reports without council having to ask.
Yes, and you're exactly right, and I agree with that. But we have never had policies and procedures in place to do that.
And that's what
And that's why we're doing it now,
So,
and that's where we're headed. So,
back on track, Councillor Howell. Within this policy, will finance, audit and risk have the full authority to release all reports to the public, redacting staff wages, everything else goes in. Because it's all accessible by our ticket anyway.
it's a approved budget, it goes through council.
Monthly reporting. So for example, maybe I back off the $250 and just get a report on all receipts every month. And we can release that to the public.
As long as it's through council.
If I may, Councillor Allen, I'll direct this question. Cindy, the reporting capabilities within the system, are they adjustable by different filter criteria? For example, from the first of the month to the last of the month? Both those, and any expenditures can be pulled through that reporting function that way. That seems pretty reasonable. Yeah, and maybe have that available at the council meeting.
And that's our plan, like, council.
That's how I understood this going to be unfolding anyway, just haven't happened yet.
There'll be a report on monthly.
Because I think, don't want to speak out of turn, the RFP that's currently out, that's public, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so the RFP, we just did an addendum to the RFP, and so there was like, what, I think 25 to 35 transactions a month. So if that's all there is, it wouldn't be a big deal to just photocopy all 25 or 35 receipts and put that report as a, as a report. That's pretty straightforward. If it's not 100, and then it's, that way we can say to the public, hey, this is how it's going. We can appease the public, let the staff do their stuff. Everybody's happy. Thank you, Councillor Allen, Deputy Mayor Malone.
Through you to Councillor Shepherd. I thought I heard you at one of the last meetings say that your financial reports or updates will be available quarterly. Did I hear that correctly? Because I think they should be monthly.
Councillor Shepherd. So yeah, to answer, the decision was to do it monthly. That was the council decided that. So monthly is what our plan was. And I can just also say something else?
Yeah.
And just on that, just so there's clarification between the committee, the finance committee and staff. My intent would be for staff to put that maybe up on the website or something. I don't know if we necessarily, as the committee should be sending it out by email or whatever, if requested maybe. But I think it'd be clean if it was just put online or somewhere public, so that done by staff. We're reviewing it as the finance committee. And obviously if someone requested or something or wants to talk about it, but it'd be nice if every month that went up in a nice, easy, publicly available way. We are also looking at it specifically, we're responsible for that. And I'll do a report for the committee at our proper council meetings, but yeah, having it online, I do think that would be very helpful for the community and for us.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Hart.
Through you, Mayor to Councillor Shepherd, I love that idea of putting things on the website. My concerns is that the website is not up to date, and I have not received answers as to when it will be up to date. So that may be a problem.
So
So until we have things sorted out, why don't we just throw the section that I suggested and we'd sort this stuff out and then remove it? Because we can change policy anytime we want. Does that not make sense? Let's make sure that we can appease the public so that they're gonna be happy. We wanna make sure staff is happy as well. And council, everybody's happy. We just do that, remove it when, let's get these policies in place, let's get these reports going, let's show the community. And then a few months later, let's revisit and say, okay, let's amend this policy and remove that section.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Before I move on to you, Councilor Shepherd, we are at our time. I'll need a motion from some member of council.
So moved.
To extend for an additional 15 minutes.
With 30 minutes, so moved. We still got Councilor Shepherd's.
Yep.
Yeah, but you guys,
And around 15, we can extend. Seconded by Councilor Noble. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Sorry, what was your last point, Councilor Allen? Just because I was going to say something about it and then.
It was that we basically put the authorization temporarily. And when we have the reports that we can present to the public on a regular basis, then we can look at removing that.
It just maybe to find middle ground on that. Again, and in the hope that we move forward with our staff and with the community all kind of being somewhat on board, I'm open to carrying on as this is written. You know, because we're looking at long term, we want to make sure this is tight. You know, for future staff, future, et cetera. I'm open to gamble a little bit that with our current setup, this won't be used while we take a couple of months to get it sorted out. I'd be open to that flexibility. And I do think we should kind of have this decided tonight so that we have it, how we're gonna write it and vote on Tuesday. Because those are very different things that we're talking about, and that gets confusing if we don't kind of know what the actual motion is gonna be on Tuesday. So I'm open to giving a little bit of flexibility, trying to find that middle ground where we're trusting staff for the next couple of months, but still with a plan long-term to really tighten that budget down. And have everything made public, which I mean, shouldn't take that long. I know our website's not great, but it shouldn't take us too much longer to get it so we can put a monthly report out. Like, I don't think it's gonna take us a year to do that. So I think trying to find a middle ground and let's keep it at 1,000, but with a plan over the next few months. We're gonna have it public on the website and our budget's gonna be tight.
Just for clarity, is leave it as is.
So that would be my thought, but under the kind of general understanding that we're moving forward aggressively on these other.
With the financial statements and information.
And the budget itself be much more line by line, rather than these broad, large sums that are very black hole amounts of money.
I'm exactly where you are, Counselor.
Oh yeah, we're gonna middle ground, what about $500 or something? And in the short term, and then up it to 1,000 once we have this in place.
Again, we can't decide this tonight. We're going to try to get some.
I don't know, I'm just throwing that out to the.
Any other discussion?
We have an informal poll, just so we know how to have it written for Tuesday, or we just will change, we'll scratch it up on Tuesday as we go.
I'm having informal.
Yeah.
So if you have it written up, the most likely way it's gonna end up on Tuesday. To save the clerk's having to scratch the program.
So with regards to that, it's my understanding, Councilor Shepherd, you're content with it as it's written. Councilor Allen, you wish to have the section 4 added with some other number, correct? Correct. Councilor Noble,
You said 500.
And what, that's possible.
as it is?
Yeah.
Councilor Standish,
I think this policy is reasonable as it is.
Councilor Hart,
I do not agree with the limits.
and you're along.
I think it's a reasonable policy. Yes, I'm there.
Very good. We're all on the same page. Next item, if there's no further discussion. On the next item on the agenda, Councilor Shepherd, future office space.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I added this to the agenda, thinking I'd have some time to add this, thinking we'd have some discussion, but I just wanted this put out as kind of a general discussion. Because we got, 15, 16 months or something until this rent is over. And I hope to be here next year, if Ward 2 decides to elect me again, that I'd like to have a plan going forward so that we have an idea of what we're gonna do in 15, 16 months, whatever that is, the end of October next year. Are we gonna just try to rent somewhere else? Are we gonna try to get a little modular place or something? I just wanna have a general discussion to see where the council was. We're pretty tight on time, just to start making plans. Because if we are gonna try to buy or build a small office, we're pretty tight on time, so. I'd like to know, so.
Any further discussion? Good. Okay, so, as you all know, before I became councilor, I sent a survey out to the community. We had 303 respondents. And we really looked at what the building that we actually looked like. Basically, it's a 2 or 1 or 2 office building, with a washroom, a kitchenette sort of thing. I don't want a council room in it or council meeting room in it, but that's fine. Building layout, parking lot, most of the show's gravel, the other 68% don't care. So that tells me, look at a mini home. So I went on realtor.ca today for our little thing, $249,000 for a mini home on 22 DeWitt Road in the Schwartz. $250,000, mortgage payment of about $1,850. You'll see what your mortgage would be at, assuming
Substantially less than our rent.
substantially less than our rent. So my thoughts are, that one on DeWitt is there's another one on McCain, it was 200, one 199,900, another one for 195,000, give or take, if we hand them around, if you guys want to look, actually. Send them home. So the community's told me what they want us to have. Why don't we start looking at mini homes, retrofit it, get it, mortgage it, be ready for, you don't have to do it now, you can do an order, a land package to Maple Leaf or Northrop for like the same price point. But it gets us to, I think what we need to look at is we need to really look at doing what the community wants. And that is not having a big office space, getting something small. And there's simple ways to do it. We put together a committee to look at this, to look at options. There's all kinds of great ways to do it and be economical, get what the community wants. All kinds of rents for right around $1,500 on, again, on realtor.ca. I didn't print them off, anywhere from, 1,500 to 2,500 square feet in about the $1,500 a month range. My thought would be switch to a mini home. You probably spend, well, I just spent about $100,000 on earthwork, so I know what that costs. Me $100,000 to do the driveways, probably for a decent enough gravel parking lot. You'd probably be looking at some retrofits to allow for accessibility. But all in all, great way to get an inexpensive office place. I personally don't see us having 4 or 5 or 10 staff in the next 10 years. I see the community staying as they want to, the same size, like have it small and just do what we're doing, keep doing what we're doing. And we can always sell that building to the room.
Thank you, Councilor Allen, Councilor Shepherd. Yeah, so Councilor Allen and I are on the same page on this. I do think we've had some community involvement, we probably need some more. Absolutely. Is my only concern. So I guess my question is more broad of, is it even reasonable in 15 months to get the community involvement and buy a mini home and get it retrofitted? Because I don't know these things, so I know Councilor Allen has experience with real estate. is that a realistic goal in 15 months, 16 months, whatever it is, till the end of October of 2026? I guess that was the initial discussion. Or are we gonna have to look at renting a place because it's gonna take us 3 years to even get something with community involvement? And I guess that was more general. I would just step it back, even a step, before we even necessarily go to the next step. Like, is that reasonable, especially with an election in there as well, right? So we have a whole new council, so where do we go from there? I guess that was my initial discussion, but quick. Councilor Hartley?
Well, I do agree that we need to look ahead into not keep this expensive rental arrangement. We also have to keep in mind the election and also we're restricted as to what we can bind a new council moving forward financially. So you have to keep in mind those things as well.
Councilor Joe was asking kind of timeframe, so yeah, this is something that the new council would very easily do. If you want to buy off the shelf.
In like 6 months?
You could do it, yes, the new council will exist in June, so it's realistic to line up your contractors. If you bought it in July of next year, it would be reasonable to line up your contractors to get, the earthwork done and modifications so that the building would be handicap accessible. If you talk about a standard mini home style building, that's, the contractors probably be done within a couple of months, to be honest. So start to finish.
Where I think we can start the legwork, but we cannot financially commit the new council.
Councilor Spanish?
Yeah, Mayor, just the, I guess the question would be, when community engagement, should that be the new council doing community engagement? So that they can have their fingerprints on it? I don't know either way, I'm just wondering if that might be a consideration, which would then make much more difficult to get done.
Well, back in November, we agreed to have a number of listening meetings. Maybe we need to have those listening meetings and ask the community the specific question. What do you want to see? But we should give a little bit of vision and say, okay, we're proposing maybe buying a mini home or, whatever.
Councilor Standish's work has involved that very listening session.
Yes, but more, Mr. Mayor, we need more from the community before we decide on exactly. So, but yeah, I think that does need to happen now so that we can be prepared to make the decisions. We know what. I think we all have a pretty good idea of what the community wants now, but let's firm that up. Then let's ask, and then they say, okay, yes, we'll buy a mini home. Okay, great, now we know exactly what they want us to do, buy a retrofit mini home. Again, I'm using examples. I highly doubt anybody's going to say, build an $8 million building. Okay, so, we get that plan together, and then that can be handed to the next council and say, here, this is what they've suggested, buy one. If you do want to buy land and home packages, you're a year and a half out. A year to a year and a half out. So if the new council wants to go that route, for example, and have purchase a new mini home or mini modular home, that won't happen by November 26th. No way. So I think we need to start having those listening meetings, ask people, get an idea of where we think they want to be, put the kind of the best plan together. I mean, that tells me mini home. I know we need a lot more than this, but that's a good start. It tells me mini home.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. You may go on.
Glad you brought that up. All I would say is, I would hope that we would be looking at something that's centrally located. I don't know enough about that current land that you have. I don't know what it's worth. I've never seen a property appraisal, but I do know that, its location is not central. So whether it's me, home, or whatever it happens to be, I'm hoping that we can start thinking about a central location that it's more accessible by more residents.
Yeah, so I just wanted, and it'd be helpful, that's what everybody kind of thought, that this council for the next kind of 10 months, whatever we have, do some community engagement, and then allow the next council to either buy and renovate, depending on what the community says, or rent again somewhere else, while maybe $2 million and going back. Is that kind of the thought of what the council's thinking? Because then, then basically the next 9-10 months, we have to do some, this council has to do listening meetings, but we're not doing much else beyond that until the election. Is that kind of the general thought? Councilor.
I would say that's a general thought. Although having a land and, have it built the way you want it financially, I would have a hard time committing to renting another location unless it was extremely less than this rent, but then you have the expense of moving twice, which is not, to me, realistic. And to me, buying something existing would probably be more realistic. And maybe you'll have a 20 by 24 garage that can be our council chambers.
But you're thinking we would maybe do that before the election, or again, that's the new council?
I would have to look into the act to see how much we could financially commit. Because I know there are restrictions onto what an existing council can commit to a new coming council and the timeframes for those. So it's something that's would have to be looked at. Maybe it's a question for the Minister of Local Government.
Councilor Allen?
I don't think we have a budget to buy right now, anyway. So,
We pay 14,000 a month a year, right? Correct?
we do,
So 14,000 a month. How much is that a year?
oh, I know, we don't have a budget unfortunately to buy right.
So for,
We could buy the finance.
we do have reserves, correct?
I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll call to council's attention, we are at our time. Do we want a motion to extend it?
So moved.
Seconder. Councilor Noel, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carried.
Yeah, so just on that, I do think we probably would, because we'd be mortgaging it. And so we would have money if we were to buy a committee home or something. But my question again is more broad. Do we even want to go down that path? Or leave it to the next council?
Councilor Allen.
Do we mortgage or we buy at $300,000? We're gonna have significant savings on the budget next year. We reduce two staff, we reduce the MO components. We're gonna have a significant surplus, left over from this year. Maybe that buys it, then we're just done, and the community doesn't have to pay for anything going forward. Mortgages.
Yeah, we have the budget, I guess is what I was, my point.
Okay, mortgages are,
Just if I may, Councilor Allen, I believe it still has to go through the municipal capital borrowing board, even if we have the cash to do it. So as to go through them, the details of that I'm not versed in. I can't speak to that.
so do we have to pay interest even if we're paying for it
So
ourselves?
this has to go through their office.
Okay,
So but I don't know the details on how that breaks down.
Okay, so
Oh, actually, I'll ask the staff to actually speak to that.
It does have to go through the municipal capital board, we have,
for their approval.
or their approval. People,
Well, to borrow, but if we don't want to borrow, but we're just gonna use it.
Still has-
No, but even the acquisition.
Okay.
Councilor Harris.
I guess my question would be, I would ask staff to come back with us the steps we need to take. If we consider, I believe the wish would be to buy something. So if we could find out the steps and the time frame specifically in a staff report, not verbally, in a staff report, so we know and we have in paper, we can refer to it ourselves and the public can refer to it, what we need to do to accomplish purchasing whatever we want to purchase in a reasonable budget for future office.
Excellent, Councilor.
So I would like,
Sorry?
I would like that to come back in July. A staff report on that.
But just follow up on the idea of the budget as well. This is part of the reason why I wanted to think about it as well. as we do move forward with the 2026 budget, because this would likely happen next year. So it'd be under the 2026 budget. It wouldn't be under the 2025 budget, right? So like, if we have a plan for this, that yes, maybe we actually can do something like this in spite of the election, then we could budget for it when we're coming up with our budget versus, again, the general topic of, no, we're just gonna do community planning, and then it's up to the council next year to figure something out, then it's hard to budget it for, but should we be budgeting? Because it's clear the community's going a certain way, even though the next council will be the one actually doing it. And again, like what are the rules on the finance stuff you were mentioning about, again, to me, you wouldn't be committing them, it would just be on the budget, but I don't know the rules on that.
So I will, in response to Councilor Cartwright's comment, is that a reasonable request to provide the steps of what that will look like to pursue that, whether it be, a rental or purchase, an acquisition or renovation or whatever the case may be, just so we know what those steps will look like, including the timelines to start that process.
I'll contact local government tomorrow just to see if it's.
Yeah, if they
That's
have,
the first thing.
yeah,
And then go from there and go see what steps will be for each option.
and that'd be reasonable to have that back for July.
I don't, like, I'll get hold of them tomorrow.
Okay.
We'll probably do is go from there.
That did align with what you were hoping.
Yeah, and I hope that the answers would be easily attainable since you have purchased land in the past. So those steps, I would hope, would be somewhere.
Okay, Councilor Allen?
One, did you have to go through the municipal lending board to buy the Chaparral Land Road? And two, when we get things back, if you could ask the local governments to provide the legislation, regulations, or acts that make us do that, I'd like to see those. I'm not sure where do you go look for those?
Well, that's my understanding. Should gather the information to get council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Councilor Trevor?
Yeah, so just to clarify, so renting would be easy, like, because we don't need the local government for that per se. Doesn't sound like we have time to buy and build something before October. So really the only option we're looking at is what are the steps to actually buy something next year, like a mini home and renovate. That's really the only option that we might have, if my understanding is correct. It doesn't sound like we have time to do more than maybe that. Is that correct?
I believe our first steps are finding out what the steps are going to be to get to that point. Then we got to have some timelines to it.
Mine's more from a building point of view, that's why I was leading to Councillor Allen, that he said a year and a half to buy and build, and we're already under a year. Right, so to me, that's something you'd have to rent and build in 2 or 3 years, so that's maybe not even an option to look at, it's really the only option we need to know about. One is to do another rental, but we don't need legislation for that. And then it's really just, what if we want to try to buy something after the election next year and renovate it before October? Kind of what are the rules on doing something like that? In the middle of the election as well, new council coming in, is there some sort of financial restrictions if we're budgeting 2026? We're approving a 2026 budget, but then that buying is actually done by the next council. I guess that's kind of really what we need. Because the buying or building is probably not going to happen, and renting shouldn't need much.
And now, after we do consult with the community and find out which direction they want us to go, the other important step is we need to look at the finances of buying versus renting. Because there are additional costs to ownership, not just the mortgage. Okay, all of us have houses know that, so I want to really project those costs conservatively so that we have, a good handle on exactly what it's going to cost us to operate the building and or location we're at, whether it be a rental or a video.
But maybe it's not even an option for the local government acts and say we can't do it. And then the only option we have is renting between now and that, different rental. That's, so it'd be nice to have information, because maybe we can't do anything else because of the short time frame and an election in the middle.
Any further discussion?